Welcome to the Midweek Mailbag, your Detroit Lions midweek podcast where we answer your Detroit Lions questions come from Twitter, coming from our Pride of Detroit Direct subscribers, and that is it. My name is Jeremy Reisman. I'm the producer over at Pride of Detroit. You can find me at Detroit Online, and with me, as always, is the off-season general manager of Pride of Detroit, is the machine, and you can find him at Eric Schlitt on Twitter. It's Eric Schlitt. Eric, how we doing, buddy?
Hey, man. I tell you, it's been an interesting few days in the Lions community. I've done my best to stay off social media.
Smart.
But I've really tried to dig into the Lions' new offensive coordinator. I'm still in that process, but I know a lot more about Drew Petzing now than I did 48 hours ago, which is a step in the right direction.
Yes. Lucky for you, you weren't live on air when that hiring happened and had almost zero information about him and then was forced to talk about him. But unsurprisingly, this podcast, this midweek mailbag, is going to be primarily focused on the hiring of Drew Petzing. Now, like you said, 48 hours later, I think both of us have at least a little bit better of an understanding, even though I think if you're like me, you still kind of feel like you're only scratching the surface a little bit. But we're going to answer as many questions as we can about Drew and some other questions too as well. So it won't be solely a Drew Petzing episode, but it's kind of a Drew Petzing episode. And before we even get into a question, I do kind of want to just kind of like, I want to hear your overall thoughts here. I haven't really talked to you much about it as we've both kind of had our heads deep in stats and profiles and all that sort of stuff. So how are you feeling about the hire 48 hours after?
Yeah, it was right now. I understand the logic behind it. The more I dig into him, the more positive information I can find, because if you look solely at how 2025 played out, this certainly looks like a head scratcher. But if you look back at 24, when the health was much more significant, I would say, on the Cardinals roster, and he had at least what you would consider a competent quarterback, as opposed to some of the other stints during his career, you saw a lot of success. And then as you start looking at some of his film playing designs and stuff like that, you can see how it fits in with the Lions and what they were looking for, right? So like, most people probably talked about this. Like the main thing people were looking for from a coordinator standpoint was they wanted Dan to look outside of his own coaching tree, which Petzing is. Yep. They wanted a play caller with experience, checks the box. Success in the run game, again, checks the box. And then is adaptable to the current scheme. And I don't think his scheme is that far off from what most people are thinking, right? Yeah. I do enjoy the creativity. He was really the first coach to introduce 13 personnel, which is something that I have been on a soapbox about since the Rams game. So going into that Rams game, right?
Right. And for some reason, Sean McVay has been credited as like the inventor of it when Petzing was doing it in 2023.
Well, Petzing actually
from the Browns a little bit.
The Rams game. The Rams,
yes, with
using 13 personnel. And then that's when Sean was like, oh, maybe I should try that, because it's a copycat league, right?
Yep.
I got whipped by it, so now I'm going to take that.
Right. And now that might be what the Lions are doing. They got whipped by 13 personnel against the Rams and the Steelers. If you can't beat them, join them.
Right. And so I like it. I like the idea. I like the concept. I don't know if we're going to get into 13 a little bit more.
A little bit.
So I don't want to dig too far into it, because I have a lot of thoughts on that.
Okay.
But you can see how things can work.
Yeah.
There's a lot of creativity in getting running backs into space, whether it's in the passing game and in the run game. And again, it works. You see mesh concepts and crossers and like the Josh Reynolds route, that 15-yard dig in. Like you see all of those things that the Lions were good at under Ben Johnson that we didn't see as much last season. And so it's encouraging to see that use. At the same time, I don't think he is going to need to stray too far off of what's working because it it looks like the stuff what he's going to bring to the table, you can retool what you have as opposed to like rebuilding. Lions aren't
Right.
rebuilding their offense. They're adding in concepts and so I like the background and some of the decision making that he has. Now, there are going to be questions, and I think there's a lot of questions that I don't have answered. Like play calling in critical moments.
Yeah.
How will he incorporate the passing game differently? When you have played with mobile quarterback, or you've called plays for mobile quarterbacks, now you having more stack. Like there's questions, there's no doubt. So I understand that, but there's a lot of intriguing attributes that he brings to the table that I think blends in with what the Lions currently have, and so I'm encouraged because a lot of the areas where he succeeds are the areas that we identified as the Lions struggling in 2025, and we're hoping to get corrected in 26.
I think one of the biggest things I was looking for is threading that needle of let's not change too much, but let's change something. Like let's bring in a little bit of creativity. Sure. And I think Petzing's hire kind of does that, right? Like you said, there's kind of a lot of schematic overlap with what they do in the pass game. Certainly some in the run game, or at least what they were doing in the run game when Ben Johnson was here. Yet, like you said, it's outside of the coaching tree enough where yes, there's some overlap with Hank Fraley. Yes, there's I guess a buddy partnership that goes back to college with Ben Johnson. But it's different enough where okay, like Dan is entrusting the offense to someone he's never worked with, and that to me is at least a little bit of a sign of growth. I understand people wanted like maybe like completely different, like as much as I was starting to get on board with Mike McDaniel, like that would have required a bigger significant change to the scheme. I do think there are some things Mike McDaniel could carry over from previous regimes here, but I think it would have resulted in probably a lot more different verbiage. It would probably result in, kind of entirely reworking a relationship with a quarterback. And so in terms of that, I'm with you. I like it. I'm with you on some like the situational play calling stuff is obviously really hard to say. If you listen to the noise out there from Cardinals fans, all of them are very negative about it. But I mean, show me a fan base that isn't going to complain about play calling after the year that the Cardinals just had, right? Like, and listen, there are other offensive coordinators that have had really bad years and bounced back from them. Mike McDaniel is coming off of 2 pretty subpar offensive years, yet everyone seemed to want him. Now, there are 2 things that I like to look at when it comes to like play calling and acumen there, and it's third down and fourth down rate. Mm-hmm. Interestingly enough, like diametrically opposed. He was top 10 twice in third down conversion rate, including last year. And 14th the other year that he wasn't in the top 10. Fourth down, he was 27th, 28th, and 29th. Now, there's a small caveat there. One, if you're a bad team like the Cardinals are, you are going for fourth down more often on desperate situations. So in 2 of those 3 years, he had the 4th longest average yards to go on fourth down and the 6th longest average yards to go. The other one was right in the middle. So like in 2 of those years, it was like, okay, but it's because they're going for it on fourth and long, like fourth and medium, because they're being forced to. But obviously that is a number that needs to improve. I've heard about some conservative play calling when you're up late. I think I seem to remember a Cardinals Vikings game, I think the previous year, where they really turtled when they got into the red zone and they settled for a field goal, and then the Vikings went down and scored.
Their red zone success is actually pretty decent as well.
Right. And I think that also kind of plays into situational play calling. So I think like that's to me where the most questions are, just because like I haven't sat there and watched his end of halves or his key third down calls or anything like that. The numbers are kind of inconclusive, I would say. And then the other part of it that I'm still scratching the surface, just because everyone keeps talking about the run game. The run game is very good and varied and innovative. All things that I think were very much needed. Especially, I feel like watching the Bears-Eagles game on Black Friday traumatized me in a way, because it's like, oh yeah, that's what Ben Johnson does with the running game. Like a bunch of really crazy, innovative stuff and whether John Morton couldn't do that or wouldn't do that because that's not how he liked it, or that's what the offensive line was only capable of, whatever. Petzing is very appealing on that side. I'm still a little bit like figuring him out in the passing game. Is he going to bring help? Is that something that they're going to rely on someone in-house? It obviously requires the fewest adjustment because they still were performing at a pretty high level in the passing game. But it's hard necessarily to see what his plans are there when he was dealing with Kyler Murray. Now, he was also, he comes from the Stefanski tree. When they were with the Minnesota Vikings, he was dealing with like Kirk Cousins, very much a pocket passer, a guy who does a lot of the things that Jared Goff does. And so I don't think it's just like, oh, well, he's only used to, dealing with a shotgun type of quarterback that runs. He hasn't called a ton of plays for pocket passers. But I think he has enough influence from Stefanski that will be in his wheelhouse. It might just be something that he has to adjust to on the fly because he doesn't have a ton of experience doing it.
So I was looking at the personnel that he's worked with at each of his stops at the different positions that he was at. Like when he was working with tight ends, who were his tight ends? When he was working with receivers, et cetera, right?
Yep.
And so here, I'm gonna get my list so I don't speak out of turn here. Well, so when he was a quarterbacks coach or an OC.
Yeah.
The quarterbacks that he worked, and this includes when he was an assistant quarterbacks coach. He worked with Kirk Cousins for a year, and then Deshaun Watson for 6 games, and Jacoby Brissett for 11 in his year in Cleveland as a QB coach. Then Josh Dobbs, Kyler Murray, Clayton Tune, and then Jacoby Brissett. That was his quarterback.
Yeah.
The 4 quarterbacks that he worked with in Arizona. And the one that he worked with the most was, of course, Murray. But like Murray gave him 2 seasons worth of games, or a little less than 2 seasons worth of games,
which is
over 3 seasons worth of play, right? Yeah.
Which is almost the same as Brissett. And Brissett's a little bit more of a pocket passer too. So like there is some of that too.
Yeah, he actually has coached Brissett almost as many, if you include the Cleveland time. Right.
Yep.
But when you go back to like when he was a tight ends coach, he's working with Njoku and Austin Hooper and Harrison Bryant in Cleveland. Yeah. And those times in Cleveland, Hooper was their second leading receiver, like the pass catcher, right? Like like their tight ends were finding success. And then if you go back to when he was receivers coach, it was Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, right?
Yep.
And even Cordell Patterson for a little 1-year stint. And again, when those receivers, it was like, hey, Stephon Diggs, he was the top receiver on there. Then Thielen, Thielen was the top one. So then I started looking at, okay, well, how many of these guys were all pros? And I'm like, oh, well, okay, Thielen was an all pro once. Diggs was an all-pro once. Kyler Murray, the 1 year that he was fully healthy, he was an all-pro.
He was an all-pro?
Yeah, I believe he was an all-pro, like a second team or something like that.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe I'm misremembering, or maybe I have it written down wrong. But I know he was up for Offensive Player of the Year that year as well. Didn't get close to it, but I think he was like 8th or 9th or something in the voting.
He won Offensive Rookie of the Year. But he wasn't all.
And
a couple Pro Bowls.
Okay, maybe it was a Pro Bowl then that I had written down then, or mistaken. But when I'm looking at these All Pros in these Pro Bowl stats, here's what I noticed: almost every team that he was on, they were producing Pro Bowl or All Pro running backs. We're talking about Dalvin Cook in Minnesota. We're talking about Chubb in Cleveland. Like these were guys that were having career years.
Yeah.
When he was on, and so he's always been around this concept. Now I'm not saying he's responsible for that, but I'm saying he's been around this concept. Yeah. He's been influenced by this fact that Dalvin Cook's best year was when he was around that. Chubb's best years, 2 years, he was around that. And so like he's constantly been on offenses and influenced by these running backs, and you can see that in his play calling because he has unique ways of getting his running backs loose. And he has a power element, which is surely going to be appealing to David Montgomery. And
talk about
then
that in a little bit too.
Yep. But he also has like play designs to release running backs into flats in unique ways. Like instead of just like having them like flail out to a flat, he has them like go through the A gap and then flail to the flat. And that is cool.
I love that.
Right? Because it's totally different ways of finding and if you run Gibbs through the A gap and he's on a linebacker and then he darts and does an out, it's over. It's an inverse Texas route. Is essentially kind of like what it is, right? And because no linebacker in the league can run with Gibbs on an out route if he zips up and then through, right? And the Lions really haven't incorporated that style of thing. So it's unique in how the running backs are getting used. And if you look back at it, like I said, if you look back at his history, there are positive things happening around him, even if he's not directly influenced or not directly a part of that, have surely influenced the way he views the game and his play call style. And you can see it when in some of the film that I've watched in Arizona.
The one thing that I love more clarity on, and I don't think it's even necessarily possible to do, is this past season, particularly when it came to the running game, because yes, like the proper context of this season was the Cardinals were down to often their fourth running back, missing basically their 1 and 2 for almost the entire season. Every offensive lineman short of their center missed at least 5 games. A couple of them missed double digit. You were obviously dealing with a backup quarterback, all that stuff, and they produced, a bottom 5 rushing attack in almost every metric. The other aspect of that people are interested in is the impact of losing offensive line coach Clayton Adams, who went to become the Cowboys offensive coordinator and produced a top 10 running game there. And so some are wondering how much of the first 2 years in Arizona credit go to Clayton Adams. I think some of the concern about losing a really smart offensive line coach heavily involved in the running game is probably mitigated by the fact that you have Hank Fraley, who has a working relationship with Drew Petzing. But I would like a little bit more clarity on why everything fell apart other than injuries. And injuries obviously played a huge part in it, but I think you'd still like to see scheme lift that group up a little bit more, even if it was a terrible unit of running backs and offensive linemen.
Yeah, I hate to pin so much on the personnel that he was, working with.
Yeah.
But the personnel he was working with was not great.
It was bad.
Right?
It was bad.
Right.
And this is always the challenge, though, of like, who's responsible for what?
Sure.
When he's a wide receiver coach, how much credit do you give for him making Stephon Diggs a star? Or is Stephon Diggs just a star, right? When he's a tight ends coach, how much is Trey McBride? How much is him? Or I guess he's offense coordinator, but you get what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. And so like when they lose Clayton Adams in Arizona, I mean, I don't know if Cardinals fans were freaking out in the moment of losing Clayton Adams, but they certainly are freaking out now in retrospect. And it's like, okay, but how do we split those hairs of how much was Clayton Adams, how much was Petzing? And it's really impossible to know. But
yeah,
I think what you pointed out, though, that some of this rushing history goes beyond Clayton Adams, back to Cleveland, back to Minnesota, I think should give Lions fans at least a little bit of optimism that Petzing's got his own secret sauce when it comes to the running game. All right. After that 20 minutes of talking on our own, maybe we should get to some questions. Patrick K., one of our Pride of Detroit Direct subscribers, says, there's been a lot of fan dissatisfaction online with the OC hire, with a lot of fans pointing out that, quote, look what he did with nothing. Imagine what he could do with Lions weapons. That was also the thing we as fans clung to with John Morton hire. Although we won't really know if it's a good hire or not until well into the season, why should we believe that Petzing will succeed where Morton failed?
Well, I think we've kind of touched on some of those. One, Morton was he too close to the trying to replicate what the Lions had under Ben Johnson and didn't bring enough of his own creativity into it? And some of the things that they did try to do differently didn't work. And so you have to say, okay, they tried keeping or almost quote unquote promoting from within, even though it really wasn't. It was basically like promoting from within. Yeah. So now you're going outside, right? Now you're saying we're getting a different voice that's going to come in with different ideas and different concepts. And then there's also a proof of concept. Like you've seen what he did in 24 with a healthy offense. And so they put up really good numbers. Morton had never had that history where he had, we dismissed his one season as a play caller because it was, 6 or 8 years ago or whatever it was. Right.
Yeah.
And so,
and that Jets roster was terrible.
Yes, exactly. And so, we kind of maybe we shouldn't have looked over that. Maybe we should have looked into the play call. I don't know. It's hard to say with so much distance between, but we're talking about guys with different levels of experience, different levels of proven of concept, and they're coming in from a different standpoint. I get that people are comparing it to a John Morton hire because in a very similar way, he was hired without us knowing about it ahead of time, right? And so I think that's really what people are saying. Like, why didn't I know this ahead of time? Can I put a pin in this for a second? Yeah. The fact that people think that some people are promoting that the Lions interviewed him or hired him without interviewing him is blowing my mind. Like, absolutely blowing my mind.
Just take a minute to use one half a second of common sense.
Like, just because it wasn't announced,
right?
Like,
and I do wonder lunacy. If we not that the Lions were ever going to the Lions clearly like to operate in the shadows with this sort of thing. The only things that are leaking, I'm assuming, are probably coming from the coaching agents, because they never formally announce. I do wonder if maybe they would have benefited a little bit just PR wise if they had announced that they were leaked that they were hiring Petzing, but maybe they didn't want people to know. Maybe they thought, hey, this is kind of a secret guy. I already brought it up on the main PODcast. He comes from the Stefanski tree. Maybe he didn't want Stefanski knowing that they're sneaking around and trying to get Petzing because maybe he wanted Petzing for not an offensive coordinator role, but maybe a role with his team. And so,
no, I think Stefanski building a staff, may have accelerated the timeline on this. Sure. But at the same time, we hear from Dave that Jared Goff was meeting with Petzing over the weekend and stuff like that. So it's.
But I'm just saying, if
maybe
if we had been given a weekend to look into Petzing and all that stuff and made the Hank Fraley connection, made the Ben Johnson connection, looked at some of the running stats, I think when this eventually got leaked, it eventually got announced, I think the reaction would have been significantly different. I think it would still probably would have leaned negative just because of how hard everyone wanted Mike McDaniel. But it's just interesting how the process of reporting has, I think, impacted some people's perception of this hire.
Right. I 100% agree with that because this is a guy who, after the 2024 season, was getting head coaching interviews and was talked about as a future head coach. And then they have a terrible season for all X, Y, and Z reasons in Arizona. And then people don't know him. And then I'm going to be honest. I don't he's a 38-year-old bald guy and people are influenced by that. I'm not joking. You know how many memes have been out there where people have been like, oh, he looks like Mr. Clean, so therefore he can't know football. Come on.
We have a cousin Fester question on in this mailbag. So
okay, but this is where I'm going. It's so easy to be judgmental because we either haven't heard of this guy or he looks differently than what we were expecting, and then make these sweeping judgments, and it's unfair. It is, and so if this move happened a year ago and they hired him instead of Morton coming off the season that he came off of, people would have been like, oh, all right, he was getting head coaching hire and blah blah. But now it's okay. I digress. So how do you have an answer to the second half or to Patrick's question, or did we kind
of a little bit? I mean, I guess because I get where people are coming from, because I think people are looking at this hire as part of a larger issue with the organization, which is they don't want to shake things up too much. They don't want to change their ways too much. Petzing, just like John Morton, was schematically a lot of what they were doing. It wasn't it, and more importantly, it wasn't going and get Mike McDaniel. It wasn't making the big splashy move, right? And that's something that the entire organization is being criticized for, right? Like, you're not going out and make the splashy trades. You're not going out and getting the big free agents. You're just getting your guys. Your guys. And I know Petzing isn't a one-to-one your guy, but again, like, the schematic overhaul is enough where I think people are like, you're just preferring someone who's more like yourself rather than going out and getting the best one. And you had this gorgeous opportunity of, you maybe had the best situation. You had maybe the most attractive OC job in the league. You could have gone down there and gotten the big fish. And even if Mike McDaniel only lasted a season, you guys could have made a big Super Bowl run this one year. Why do you keep just going back to your guys, the guys that maybe fit you better? And I understand that frustration. And listen, if that's what you think, I'm not going to sit here and say you're necessarily wrong, but
right.
I think there's so much of a proof of concept of what the Lions are doing that just because they took a step back last year doesn't mean they need to throw it all away. So that's where I'm at.
Okay.
All right. C. Henry has the aforementioned question I was just saying. Says, were there any other offensive coordinator candidates outside of McDaniel more intriguing to you than Cousin Fester?
Well, yeah, look, I put my three that I thought were the most interesting. Two of them came in when I wrote my article on the OCs. I was focused on again, former quarterbacks, experience. One of the reasons why I liked Zach. So we talked about Kafka.
Yep.
We've been talking about Kafka for a while.
Yep.
But so he was one of my guys. And then I liked the idea of Zach Robinson as well. I liked the history, the focus on the run game, a lot of the same things that I think Petzing, brings to the table are reasons why I thought Zach Robinson would be an interesting candidate to bring in. So those two guys kind of stood out to me as guys that they interviewed who I thought maybe they were leaning towards if McDaniel wasn't the hire.
Yeah. I think I was leaning Kafka as kind of my guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I still, I wanted Todd Monken more than anyone else, but I know there are some
He never
concern.
really even came available, right?
Yeah, right. And has he officially landed with Harbaugh yet?
I don't know.
I don't think he has, but
I think they have to jump through some hoops there because
Yeah.
it's a lateral move and he's still
Right.
in the contract.
Right. But like even like if the Lions hired Kafka, yeah, I think there would have been a more positive reaction. Part of that is because we've sat there and digested that option for a week, and part of that is because of the game he had against Detroit. But like the Giants offense ranked 30th in points in 2023, 31st in points in 2024. So like there are holes there too.
Sure.
And so I liked, obviously, I mean, in a lot of ways, the same with Petzing, like they produced a top 5 rushing attack 3 times under him. Like their running game was also very good. And so I think that hire would have made a lot of sense. It would have, the resume actually kind of looks shockingly similar. It's just that Petzing's stock was going down this year, while I would say Kafka's stock was going up. But we're talking about a 1-year sample when there's a million things happening at once. And I mean, you could give Kafka maybe a little bit more credit for weathering a storm of injuries that the Giants were dealing with this past year as well. But at the same time, like the step up or step down from Kafka to Petzing to me is a half step at most. And so I'm not sitting here pouting that the Lions didn't get my guy. All right, let's do one more here before we take a break.
Do you want to do one more from the chat? Because there was a question that asked how long do you think the Lions were researching offensive coordinator candidates because they've only since firing to hiring, it was roughly 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, but here's the deal. Do you think like what's your estimation on how long they'd actually been looking at an OC?
I mean, that's hard to say. I would imagine a good coaching staff, a good front office is always monitoring those things, is always keeping notes on people. I'm sure they had notes about Kafka after that game. Arthur Smith.
Sure.
I mean, Arthur Smith ran all over the Lions. And in a lot of ways, I kind of think Arthur Smith kind of fits the same profile of like 13 personnel, focusing on the run, has some bad years, certainly. But when he was paired with some good talent, it worked out. But anyways, no, I think this is something where you just like, you always keep the Rolodex fresh. And so yes, obviously the interview portion has to happen after you fire the coach, but I think you're always keeping tabs on these guys, and always, because even if you aren't interested in these guys in offensive coordinators necessarily, like maybe they become a pass game coordinator, maybe they become like, if you're going to be a good coaching staff, you have to always keep your eye on the next level of talent, because you never know when your guys are going to leave. I'm sure they expected Tyler Roll to be around longer than a year. Sometimes your guys get hired away. So I'd hope they have their eye on always. Like they never take their eye off of potential offensive coordinators.
When do you think they got serious? Like, okay, we're going to need a new coordinator though. Do you think it's when the play calling took over? Like when Dan took over play calling, they were like, okay, we're probably going to need a new offensive coordinator this season. Cause that's kind of my inclination.
Sure. Yeah.
Once you make that decision, you're in the, okay, we need to really be looking at who we want to be, helping us next year.
Yeah.
And again, you give Morton the chance to kind of win you back over. But I think when you're at that point where you're making a change at play caller, with Dan and his history of that.
Yeah.
I think they started seriously like shortening their list of candidates back in, what was that? November.
Yeah. I mean, Dan was saying all the right things at the time, which is like, I mean, he could take, like, we could give play calling right back to Morton next year and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, give him a chance.
And maybe he meant that, maybe he didn't, but yeah, I think almost in every situation in which you pull play calling, there's not a lot of coming back from that. It happens every now and then, but there's not a ton. So you're at least like ramping up the search a little bit more.
Yeah, the only guy I can really think of who lost play calling duties and got him back is Kafka. Right. Like he actually got it pulled from Dable, and then Dable
for
gave
a full
it
year
back to him.
Yeah,
right.
It was a
Usually
disaster when they pulled it from him.
Right. Yeah, that's why he got it back.
Another head scratcher of why people were so hell bent on
Dable
as well.
Oh my gosh, why he's still getting head Buffalo? Don't do it, dude. Don't do it, Buffalo.
They've already made one mistake by firing McDermott, but that's a whole different conversation. Let's take a break. When we come back, we are going to talk a lot 13 personnel, tight end room, running back room, maybe more staff changes to come. A whole lot more on this Drew Petzing specific edition of the Midweek Mailbag. We'll be right back. All right. We're on break here. Let me read through some alerts here. We'll get to your guys' live reactions, questions. Okay, let me get through alerts here. Where do I start? Right there. RGA, thank you for the 38 months subscribed on Twitch. Says the fans saying why we didn't hire McDaniel. Probably the same fans making fun of McDaniel preferences before he got fired. Make it make sense. I mean, I don't know. How are we supposed to know if there's overlap between those people? I don't know. The McDaniel, I get the obsession with the McDaniel stuff because I mean he was and is an innovative coach, right? We saw that.
Well, anything that comes from the Shanahan McVay tree, people love.
Yeah, true.
It's working because it's working in the NFL right now.
Yes, and it's one of those trees that actually has a lot of good branches, right?
Yeah. Yep.
McVay, Cohen,
KOC in Minnesota.
O'Connell, right?
Yep.
To a lesser extent this year, obviously.
Yeah, but
And
who could have saw that coming?
And there were like, I could see Lions fans getting more and more amped up about it too, because you saw like that clip of him talking about coaching where he's talking about adjusting to your personnel, and I mean,
yeah,
it's a nice clip, but like I think every offensive coordinator in the world has said something similar to that, have they not?
Yeah, I agree. I think what's unique about what he in that for the context of that was that they were having to adjust to RG3, right? Because RG3 they'd never really had that style of you've never really saw success with that style of quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
And it's not like he really succeeded as it was, but they basically created an offense for him in a very similar way that Baltimore had created their offense around Lamar, right? Yep. Because when you have such a dynamic player, you want to be able to build to their traits. And so that was something they were tasked with. Right. It's one of the reasons why I think Monken, it was so attractive, was because he showed the creativity to adapt to players that were on the roster, and he found creative ways to get Lamar working, and so it's I get the appeal. I totally get the appeal.
Yeah,
I just don't think it was a schematic mesh. Like in the chat, Joe Tigers asks if it was like more about his personality, and maybe his personality, I don't think personality was like a thing, or would be an issue with that. But at the same time, I think it was just schematic. What's going to work for the players that we have and isn't too far away from what we're working with. And the fact that he met with Goff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is a big green flag for me.
Right. Well, I imagine that was going to be the case with whoever they hired, right? There has to be some sort of
mesh. Yeah, 100%. But again, saying that it should happen and believing it would happen and then it actually happening are not always aligned, right?
Fair.
So
yes.
So I'm happy to hear that was part of the process, and we expected it to be, but it was nice to hear it came to fruition.
For sure. Peanut, thank you for the follow. Drew Falcon, 36 months, says happy Benny Blades anniversary. Ooh, that's an older reference. I don't think I could have told you Benny Blades was number 36, even though I think I had a Benny Blades poster in my childhood bedroom. Not that obvious. 29 months subscribed on Twitch. And Joe Tiger, 12 months, says looking back at the reports, the Lions didn't see Mike McDaniel as the right fit, despite Dan Campbell liking him as a personality. Do you think his public persona captured by that flashy image at DTW with the high-end designer brag and luxury watch simply clashed with the blue-collar grit culture the Lions have built? Did he come across as too showy for the staff that prioritizes down-in-the-dirt identity, especially when contrasted with a hire like Drew Petzing, who fits? Yeah.
That was what I just was referencing.
That's what I figured. But yeah, no, I mean, I think it's more about ball. Like I think Dan Campbell has proven, not just with some of his coaching hires, but with some of the players he targets, that it's more, like, I don't care what you do outside of the building. If you're inside of the building and you're all about ball, that's all that matters to me.
Yeah.
And by all accounts, that's what Mike McDaniel is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Grew up around the game, man.
Yeah.
Kid's been around the game forever.
Yeah. For sure. All right, that's it with alerts. So I'm assuming that's just because everybody is subbed, because last time we went live, we had someone drop 75 gifted subs in the middle of all of the chaos that was happening. Last podcast was, in my opinion, like a mess.
Dude, I was giving my kids a snack and washing dishes, and just like, hey, washing dishes.
Yeah.
Got the kids home, get their afternoon snack, right? Laura comes in. I guess she's got some groceries. Come gets a couple of little groceries out. I'm putting them away, and I look at my phone, and I'm like, "Oh, the Lions hired an OC 30 minutes ago."
Oh no.
Yeah, I had no idea. Like, because my phone was on vibrate, and I was washing dishes, so I put my phone off to the side, and so I didn't. And then when Laura came in when I was doing my dishes, so then I just went right and got the groceries, and I started putting them away. I didn't even. The phone was just sitting there on the counter. Didn't even notice. So now I'm like,
Yeah.
oh crap! Now I'm like a half hour behind everybody, and
Yeah.
I was like, I'm like, oh man, did I feel the pressure like to get caught up as quick as I could with that?
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
It is not easy to be live and provide live takes when you have. I
No
mean,
way.
I've said this.
I
Couple
realized
times.
I realized you guys were live like 5 minutes after that. I was like, oh crap.
Yeah. There's nothing I like less than trying to talk about a topic I'm not informed on. I'm not someone who's just gonna make up takes. I'm not someone that's gonna make up information or jump on a side just to jump on a side. So like, I was absolutely saved by the fact that Miko and Ryan were there, because they allowed me to just write the entire initial article, to just to have someone talking while I can read and do as much research as possible to give the people something. Because I mean, that's the first thing anybody wanted, was someone like we were handed the fortunate situation of already being live. So like an audience immediately came to us, and like those YouTube videos have done great this week. I don't think I gave you guys my best stuff. If we'd gone live 4 hours later and I at least had some sort of semblance of information on him, it probably would have been a better product. But I don't know.
That's what this is. That's what today is.
That's what today is.
Today's the better product.
That's right. And yeah. Is it stressful to always be on call when this kind of stuff happens? Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Like, you don't want to leave the house during free agency.
Yeah.
Like I have a doctor's appointment that is the third day of free agency in the morning at like 9 in the morning, 9:15. And I'm looking at that going, I should probably reschedule that, because that's on the third day of free agency. And I probably should be like,
listen, it's the worst part of an awesome job. If that's the thing that I'm sacrificing, yeah, it sucks, because it means I could be anywhere when this happens. I could be driving. I could be in the shower. I could be grocery shopping.
doing dishes. Yeah.
Doing dishes.
I keep outside of this podcast right now, my phone is no longer in the in the vibrate. It's now on volume all the way up. Like from like just it's
right.
Got to be like that from now on, I guess.
Right.
Again, I forget that's how the off season goes sometimes.
Yeah. Listen, I think we've both written articles from our phone. I've had to I've pulled over to the side of the road and written an article on my phone.
The like 11 o'clock at night, 1 in the morning ones. Those are the ones that are brutal.
Even last night, like when McDaniel got the job, or is getting the job with the Chargers, like it was 9:30. I've had a long couple days and I just wanted to go to bed, and I'm just like, no, the story isn't big enough. I'm just gonna write tomorrow morning. And it used to be really interesting when I lived on the West Coast, because a lot of stories, for whatever reason, it felt like during the
initial like 2021, or no, there was one season, couple seasons actually, maybe during the Patricia season too, where they were signing people at like 2 a.m. Like, it was just dumb stuff.
Yeah.
Like
a lot of like really early, like I feel like, I had a lot of unhealthy habits, as most people do in their 20s then. And like, I'd be writing I would be setting alarms at 3 a.m. Pacific time to write question of the day. But then like sometimes there was like a news story, then I'd wake up and be like, oh, the Lions hired a new coach at 7 a.m. Eastern time, 4 a.m. Pacific, and I'd have to cover that. It's crazy. But there's a couple of things that make the job easier. One is having a staff of like 12 people who, like, there's a good chance someone is going to see the news and throw it in our Slack room and mention me so that I get a phone ping no matter where I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I try not to be too far from my phone at all times. But you miss stuff still. And we also have at least 4, 5, 6 writers that I would trust to write a news story if I'm like completely out of it.
I remember the day that they hired Anthony Lynn, Aaron Glenn, and traded staff. Wasn't that all like at the same day? Like I believe the Anthony Lynn hire. I believe the Lynn hire, or it was one of them. There was one day that they hired either Lynn or Glenn on the same day that the Stafford like trade thing came out, and I remember I was at Costco, when the coordinator hire happened, and I was writing that article because by the time I got home and got everything settled, I was writing that article when the Stafford news hit, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not sleeping, because like I feel like that dropped like super late. It was like 8, 9 o'clock, something like that. Super late for the news cycle.
It was like the first time I had gone out and seen some friends in the COVID era. Like a full year, and then I'm like, I had to leave. Like I was like an hour into that. I'm like, sorry guys, I have to go. And I think like Hamza wrote that article for us or something. I wonder if that's true. I don't know.
Dude,
I rushed home when we recorded a podcast that night.
That day was the beginning of the shift of me joining POD that day. That day was because I was still at Lions Wire for that. And I wrote like, God, how many articles did I write that night? Because you had to write like all these Stafford articles, and then you still had the coordinator one to write. And it was like, oh my gosh, that was one of the harder nights.
I'm trying to see if I can find the original article because I am interested in who wrote it. Because I don't think it was me.
Yeah, I wasn't ready for that when it happened. My head was somewhere else entirely. It was a hard article. I'm not as I talk about this all the time. I'm not as fast of a writer as you, and so for me to have to like shift gears like that, it was hard. It was hard for me to do.
Yeah. Plus,
I also didn't want to believe it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There was definitely some of that on my end too. I can't find it. Whatever. I'm sure it's out there. Anyways, all right. Let's talk to our chat and not talk about our jobs. Where? Let me scroll up. Does the Ben Johnson reference make Drew Petzing make it less appealing? It's already been established that Ben is highly competitive with division rivals, enough to contaminate the water in Detroit. You think? So you're suggesting, Soulful, that Ben Johnson will now be even more competitive against the Lions because Drew Petzing is there?
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, he's like a friendly thing. It's not going to be like I hate everything about the Packers type of situation. It'd be the opposite of that. No update on tight ends, coach. The really tough part about all this is we're in the one period of the year where we don't hear from the Lions for like a month. Like a month and a half. Really 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't have to announce anything.
Right.
So like they haven't even acknowledged the Petzing hire.
Right.
And so we may get, and this is what I'm wondering, like or maybe even expecting. I'm almost expecting them to be like, hey, we hired Petzing and this coach and this coach, and
Yes.
this is what our staff looks like now.
Yep.
And then it's all just going to come in one media dump.
Right.
So,
yeah,
really, it'll happen before the combine. That's when we're scheduled to have our next.
Yeah.
The next time Dan's scheduled to be in front of a microphone is the combine.
Yes. So like the media sessions as they go, typically, and to be clear, like when they hired John Morton, the first time we talked to him was at the combine. The first time we talked to anybody was the combine. There wasn't a John Morton press conference. There wasn't a Kelvin Shepard press conference. All that stuff just happened at the NFL combine, which is why I'm almost certainly going to go again this year. So you get him at the combine next. After that, it's the owners' meetings in March, right after free agency. Right after free agency? Yeah, a little bit, like 3 weeks after free agency.
Yeah.
Then there is a pre-draft press conference with Brad and Ray. And then it's the draft. And then OTA, I think we get Campbell Daily.
Owners' meetings are last Monday in March. Monday, Tuesday, and then it's third day is April. Or I think it might be a Sunday in there too. But yeah, it's...
Yeah. I'm putting you on the spot here, but like, do you think there's any chance you would be able to go to the combine?
The combine's tough because of when it is.
Yeah.
This year's combine is the last week in February, essentially, and then like the first day in March.
Yeah.
But like for me, I don't get like that's 1 week too late.
Okay.
Like I'm on my break the week prior. Like my kids are on their break the week prior to that to the combine. So that doesn't line up. And then like I'd have a better chance of going to the owners' meetings. You know what I mean? But
I haven't decided on the owners' meetings yet because I always go to the one in Florida because it's very convenient for me.
Right.
It's
not in Florida? Is it in Arizona this year?
It's Arizona this year, which I've never gone to, but it's also one of my favorite events in the off season.
Yeah, I'd have to take like the family type of thing. Like it'd have to be like, hey, it's a family vacation. I'll be gone for an hour or two or 5.
Yeah. Or 5. 5 when it's the gala at the end. I think I still want to do it. I think I'm still going to try to make it happen, but we'll see. I'm also taking a cruise like right after the first or second week of free agency, which I wish my family had a different spring break because I don't like missing that time of the year. But no, the team has not officially announced the offensive coordinator hire. It's not official. And if you look at their coaching page, the only changes to it is there's obviously no John Morton. There's obviously no Tyler Roll. And that's it. Everything else is the same. It's a Disney cruise. I don't even know where it's going. For my little nieces. Will there be a press conference around the new league year and free agency? So what the Lions do for free agency is their big signings. Those players will have a press conference. If there's like a big signing, big re-signing,
or re-sign,
re-signing. Yeah. If there's contract extensions, they do that as well. But nothing with the coaches. We don't see the GMs or the coaches, which is weird, a little weird. Like, we get to hear from the player and everything they're excited about, but we don't get to hear from the team about why they targeted those players until after. That's usually one of the bigger topics at the owners' meetings. We're going to talk a little bit about Njoku in the second segment. Do you see any change in the blocking scheme with the new offensive coordinator? I know Hank is still here. I have not done my research.
Ooh, is that a question?
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean like that we're going to have to on the podcast.
Not really. No, you can answer now.
He's favored. Petzing is favored more downhill gap, heavy concepts. With the Lions, historically, they've run a little bit more outside zone, then gap second, duo third. Last year it flipped. Last year it was outside zone, then duo, then gap. And there's some overlap between duo and gap because from a technical standpoint, because like one thing can look like duo, but it's actually gap. And like, so don't get too caught up on the concepts there. But, but Petzing is a little bit more gap duo type oriented than his outside zone. But I don't think they'd move away from outside zone entirely. But I do think maybe they scale it back. It's a little bit more even. Whereas it's always been a little bit heavier outside zone in the past. They have experience running that you need mobile guards like that can pull. Both your guards are very mobile. They're both very athletic. In those, so they're going to be able to adapt to that. But I still think a lot of the outside zone stuff is going to stick. It's kind of like 11. Like it's kind of like when you talk about like personnels. Like it's like, oh, there's 11, 12, 13, right? And everybody's like, oh, there's so much 13, but realistically, like everyone runs 11 at least 50% of the time.
Right.
It's like man zone stuff. It's right. Exactly. Like, oh my gosh, they're such a man heavy team. They run man 40% of the time in zone 60. Like it's the same thing kind of here. Like outside zone is the most common.
Right.
But then you introduce insides. The Lions run in some inside zone. They run they run gap and duo. It just where the Petzing success has been is a lot of the downhill gap stuff, which is what they did 3 years ago. They leaned on that a little bit heavier than the last couple. And so, this is going to be appealing. And I keep going back to David Montgomery. This is going to be appealing to a back like David Montgomery, who, if you're patient and you can hit and you can find the hole like David is, you should find some gaps to run into. I mean, literally like gap, but like it's tricky, right? Like there's certain things where like if you run duo and like the way duo works is you can run duo and duo. You can run two double teams and then split off.
Right.
But then if you run just duo on one side and then you peel, depending on where the formation aligns, it could be gap or it could be duo, depending on how the rest of the line moves. So, like, there's overlap is, I guess, what I'm getting what I'm getting to with like the blocking concepts. But and there's a lot of nuances that you don't have to worry about. But the general concepts are a little bit more gap, more downhill success, more appealing to backs that are patient and bigger. And but the way the Lions utilize Gibbs, he can play it all. He can do all of it, which is
the question is what the offensive line is going to be capable of too, right? Like a lot of that is that's going to play a part in all of this. I think it played a part in how the Lions run game was designed last year. I do think they had to scale some things back because of the offensive line, but I think you really do have to go to the roots of both these. When I say both these coaches, I mean Petzing and Hank Fraley, and realize that because they come from same background, they work together in Minnesota. I think there's going to be plenty of overlap, harmony. We'll see, because they've never worked in this dynamic before, where Petzing is essentially the boss of Hank Fraley, but because they come from the same systemic base, I am not concerned about any sort of newness that is unfamiliar that is going to throw things off a little bit. Thoughts on potential Ragnow drama? Felt like Brad had some. See, people have said this. I did not sense any sort of drama or hatred or spite or anything out of Brad. Says Ragnow is not part of our plans moving forward. Something felt different. I didn't get that sense. I really didn't.
I didn't get that sense either.
Okay. Yeah. Let me show you the Anzalone thing, because I think some people haven't seen the tweet that has gotten some fans into thinking there's maybe a more optimistic chance of him returning.
Was it the one where someone said he's gone and then he was like, "Oh, that's not what I heard," or something like that? Yes. Essentially.
There are a couple things.
Some of these players just like to agitate fans.
So I think this came after. Oh, Anzalone like retweeted one of those charts where he's like in the top right, and it's just like,
wow, he likes to do that.
Look how good I am. And someone responded to him, "You were good last year, Alex. Lions probably move on due to future cap constraints, but you will get a nice paycheck this offseason. Good luck." Anzalone responds, "How do you know that? That's not what I've heard." And then noted aggregator the Detroit Times screenshotted that interaction, said, "Lions Alex Anzalone hints at possibly returning to the Lions on a cheap deal next season."
Cheap.
And Anzalone responded, "Who said cheap?" Which of course is, I mean, that if that's not a perfect example of why aggregation is a little like he this is the entire interaction, which it's very funny. But yeah, there's him saying, "Who said cheap?" Yeah. Anyways, so that's where I don't have any sort of insider information, but I would say like this initial interaction is certainly a like if I were to put odds on, especially like right after the season, whether Anzalone is returning or not, probably put it at like 20%. This might bump it up to 30. I still would be surprised if it happens, but I'd like for it to happen. I'd like to be able to sign him to like a 2-year, I don't know, $20 million deal. Is that too much? It's a lot.
It is a lot, but I don't think it's enough in his mind.
Yeah, it might not be.
That's the hard part.
And the thing that has me believing it's probably not going to happen is it's clear how much money matters to him. And I don't say that in like he's conceited, like it's clear that he believes he's worth a lot and wants to be treated as such. Yeah. Which is quite reasonable for a 30-plus-year-old linebacker who is probably going, like, this is probably going to be his last opportunity to cash in. So we'll see. Any other questions? We can jump right back into more.
No, give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
Okay. Lions go linebacker or safety first in the draft? Ooh. I mean, it'd probably depend on who's available. I think linebacker is a bigger need, and you probably need to get cheap there in a hurry because you're about to play Jack Campbell and you're already paying Derek Barnes a fair amount. Obviously, you're about to be paying a lot at safety too, but I think I'm willing to just like, because I don't know what Kirby's situation is and because I don't know how quickly Branch is gonna return to form. I think you're a little bit more set there. Yeah, I mean, obviously, offensive line, tight end, edge, I think all those things are ahead of those two positions. But I think that was just a question between linebacker and safety. Do OCs have the power to bring in their own staff, or do they need to deal with what they get? I mean, an offensive coordinator can't just be like, "Hey, I'm hiring this guy." There has to be approval for sure. I think generally speaking, which is why I wrote the article that I did this morning, generally speaking, like an offensive coordinator, you will usually bring a coach or two with him. Last year, I would certainly say John Morton was probably the biggest impact in bringing David Shaw on board, but it wasn't just like, hey, by the way, David Shaw's coming. Give him a desk.
Can I answer the linebacker safety question?
Yeah.
There in this draft class, there's probably one safety that would be worth a first round pick, and he probably will be off the board before the Lions are on the clock. If not, he'd be worth it. But there's 3 linebackers that could go in the first round, and 2 of them might be available when the Lions are on the clock. So if I was like betting, I would bet linebacker would be the pick.
Yeah.
Just based on prospects that are available.
Why am I not going to the Senior Bowl? I went one year and I didn't find it particularly beneficial. I'll go there if the Lions coach it again. Like that was the most beneficial part for me. If I was more interested in networking,
the draft,
networking with other people, I will say like that is a good opportunity to like build relationships with agents, which could have its benefits. It for one, it's not a strength of mine. I didn't really do any of that when I was down there. Mostly because I didn't have a liaison being like, hey, this is this guy. Hey, this is this guy for me. That's not true, Brett. Don't lie. And I don't know. Like, I'm not going to develop a whole like scouting report on a guy based on 2 or 3 practices either.
You don't like just walking up to people and like,
no. Also,
whereas when I get in, I won't do that in my personal life.
Yeah.
But when I get in football mode, I walk up to like, hey, Martin Mayhew, how you doing? Hey. Yeah.
I will also say this:
it's not easy.
The opportunity to talk to draft prospects the year that I went there was an absolute mess.
Yeah, it's a free for all, right?
It's they none of them had name tags that you could read, so like I didn't even know who half the people were in that building. They were just like wearing their college's thing. Yeah, maybe it was because of COVID.
Or they have a number.
I forgot what year that was. 2019? No, I don't know. It's so much better, way more access. I'm assuming you're going, Brett. Was it 21? That sounds right. Oh, right, because it was Dan's first year.
Yeah, they were coaching it, weren't they?
Yeah, that's the only reason I went, and that's the only reason I would go.
Or was it a second? Was it 22? Because it might have been a second year when he because wasn't that the year we were wondering if we were going to learn about them? Maybe it was 21.
I don't know. I don't remember. Okay. I feel like it was the first time we talked to Aaron Glenn.
Okay.
It was after their first year? So then it was 22. Yeah. Whatever. Either way, I just didn't find it was worth it. Maybe it probably would be more worth it now, but
yeah, unfortunately, it's practice. It's Monday, right? Like it's
oh yeah, in like
the practice. Yeah, it's in like a couple. Yeah. Well, the practices start Monday, don't they?
Petzing is not under contract. He was not fired. He was not. He just his contract lapsed.
Expired. He's the I forget the term. Never mind. Move on.
Okay. I think that's about all I got. Oh, someone keeps asking about the tight ends coach in Arizona. I think we're going to talk about that a little bit coming up. Well, he wasn't fired because there's not a coaching staff to fire him right now in Arizona too, right? I don't think Arizona could do anything to block him, even if the Lions were, well, yeah, because it's a lateral hire. They can't block him because he's not under contract. Anyways, let's get back into the show.
Okay.
Welcome back to the Midweek Mailbag, Drew Petzing edition, where we answer your Detroit Lions questions. We're not going to dilly-dally at all. Let's get right into it. Between the numbers, Anthony asks, 13, 12 personnel growing, and Petzing loves it. While I think it's clear they'll add more tight ends and run 13 more, would you agree that having a very strong blocking receivers in Tesla, St. Brown, and JMO allow them to run some 12-13 concepts while staying in 11-12 personnel depending on weekly matchups?
Yeah, I was thinking about this because one of the things that Petzing likes to do is he likes to run like pin and pulls, right? And with pin and pulls and whams, you are asking your skill players to crash down on an unblocked defensive lineman, catch them off guard, and put them on their butt so that you can then pull around them. And the Lions have done that successfully in the past. They've used it with really well with Sam Laporta, but they've also found success using the receivers. Khalif Raymond is actually really good at it, surprisingly, for his size. But the guy who stood out the most to me with these pin and pull blocks is Tisslaw. Some of the blocks that he's been able to hit when he's lined up as like a big slot and then crash down have been really impressive. And I do believe, based on them, wanting to use Amon-Ra on the outside more, and then giving Tesla more opportunities in kind of in that big slot more frequently. We saw that a little bit more down the stretch. If they don't want to run 13, but they want to run 13 concepts, it'd be best to have Tesla in the slot in these situations. And because he's big enough to do tight end type things as a wide receiver.
Right.
And so if you're running like a 12, or let's just say you just put him in a spot that you usually would put that a tight end in that 13 concept, and then you just crash on him. Right. Yep. And so this would basically, like, the advantage of 13 is that you're getting a mismatch. So this is a way of running or taking 11 personnel, but running a 13 concept with this kind of crash and then running out of it. So, right. So like the great thing about 13 is that you're getting the defense to adjust. Well, you can do the same thing with 11. You get the defense into a lighter spot, and then you try and block on it. It's just, I'm saying it's really all about creating mismatches. So yeah, I do think you can take these mismatch concepts and you have the personnel to match up and create them.
Yeah. Some of my favorite things that I see with 13 personnel is like you're putting the tight end in motion, and suddenly like he's inserting into the B gap and getting to the second level and things like that. And you can certainly run those exact same concepts with a receiver, right? Or running back. The one downside to it not being able to do it into 13 personnel is, I think, like the primary advantage of using 13 personnel as much as possible is trying to get that defense to play base, where a lot of teams aren't comfortable, right? The Lions are one of the few teams that are comfortable playing base, 3 linebacker sets. If you play 13 personnel, you increase the chances that they're going to go base, and then you throw out of that. Like 13 personnel, we talk a lot about 13 personnel in the run game, but one of the bigger benefits is throwing out of 13 personnel, because that's where you are getting the primary mismatches. Is they have 3 linebackers on the field, you have a tight end that's amazing, or a couple tight ends that are amazing that they can beat that linebacker coverage off of play action. And that's where a lot of these teams are hitting on. Don't get me wrong, like there's a ton of awesome 13 personnel running things that you can do, and like you said, if you go 11 personnel and suddenly they're lighter in the box, and you run 13 personnel type of plays, well then you are kind of at an advantage there as well. So it certainly works both ways, but what you lose in not being able to face a heavy front, you gain in facing a light front.
Petzing, when he's run 13 personnel, throws out of it 34% of the time.
That seems pretty high.
It's a third. One out of every 3 plays in 13 personnel he throws. So talk about, that's your mismatch, right?
Mm-hmm. We're going to stay with the tight ends here for a little bit. Damian Smith on Twitter asks, how do you see the tight end room changing? I wonder if both a draft day pick, day 3, and a free agent, Tyler Higbee, Foster Moreau, would need to be added to the offense.
Yeah, I'm starting to think like they're going to need 4, right? That's one of the common things that you see amongst the teams that run 13 personnel is they have 4 tight ends.
Yep.
And so that's kind of the way I'm leaning. And so from a roster standpoint, that means maybe you're running with 5 wide receivers instead of 6 like you normally do.
Right.
Or maybe I don't know if I don't think they would reduce down to 3 running backs, especially with the way special teams is utilized, but it's, you're going to have to find a way to add a 4th tight end, in my opinion. And so, yeah, grab one in the draft, grab one in free agency, maybe grab 2 in free agency, and just and let them fight it out. I'm all for it. You're probably gonna focus more on bringing in some more UDFA tight ends as well, as opposed usually you bring in 1 or 2. Now I'd say, hey, maybe you bring in 4 and just see how that goes, because you're going to be looking for guys who can block in diamonds, wherever you can. So I'm all about loading that tight end room back up.
Yeah, I do think it's going to be a focus this offseason. You look at what the Cardinals have done recently. They draft Trey McBride with their first pick in 2022, a second-round pick for him. 2 years later, they get Tip Ryman in the 3rd round. Not to mention some free agency.
We really liked him.
We talked a lot about Tip Ryman here. But I think most people are like, oh yeah, you just like you do your little simulators and like, oh yeah, Tip Ryman in the 6th, that's easy.
Remember he was like just blocking his butt off at the combine. There was the one year where they introduced some like the sled and stuff, and he was impressive. And like, yeah, he was something. I expect that, like a blocking tight end, like if you target one of the best blocking, I 100% could see that. I could also see them saying, hey, we need another like decent combination, because when you look at some of these tight end combinations that Petzing has seen, we talked about, like, even going back to when he was in Cleveland, like they had 2 really good tight ends. And so upgrading a tight end 2 and getting Brock Wright into a tight end 3 and then getting another blocking tight end 4, like that's not unheard of. I think Brock Wright is going to get some competition this year.
There's 2 things that I wonder about the first of all is like, one, are they going to have the resources to overhaul that room when there are needs elsewhere, right? When there's a need on your offensive line, when there's needs, maybe a starting linebacker position, maybe a starting safety position, maybe a starting edge position.
I don't think they're getting Kyle Pitts, but you know what I mean? But like, I still think they could get a capable tight end too.
The other aspect of this, and I've already seen a lot of people very concerned about this, is what this means for TSLAW. If they go more 12 personnel, they go more 13 personnel, you're potentially taking snaps away from TSLAW. I know TSLAW fits into what we were just saying, where you can run some 13 personnel concepts out of 11, but are you concerned that after this Lions team put a lot of resources into TSLAW, maybe the Petzing hire means he's not going to be as valued as maybe the plans were last year?
I don't. And here's why. If you look at Petzing's splits, between 11, 12, and 13, 13 personnel was run around 12.5% of the time.
Right.
That's about 10 plays a game, which is a good amount. Number 1 in the league over the last 3 years, right? They still ran 53% of 11.
Yeah.
And that means you're getting him on the field as wide receiver 3 at least 50% of the time, right? And again, that's the thing that we were kind of talking about in the break, is like we hear 13, 13, 13, and we think, oh, that means TSLAW is no longer. They only run 13, 12% of the time. Like there's still going to be half of the offensive snaps are probably going to ask Tesla to be on the field. And it's not like Amon-Ra and JMO play 100%. They
Right.
typically play
Sometimes he's
about
going to play the
90.
roles. Yeah.
Right. And so then if you take 10% of Amon-Ra's snaps and 10% of JMO snaps and you give them to Tesla, now Tesla has gone from 50 to 70. So now you have wide receiver 1 at 90, wide receiver 2 at 90, wide receiver 3 at 7. He's still going to play. And the fact that he's a good blocker and the fact that you could ask him to do tight end-ish things, I think the investment in him is still going to be what they want.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't think like you said, he's still going to play at least half the snaps in 2026. I guess to me there is just a little bit of concern that he's going to be valued a little bit less, and I'll be completely transparent here. Part of that is certainly maybe a little residual, like why did you put all this investment into Isaac Tesla? Like I still don't love the trade up and all of that sort of stuff, but I do think you're right in that like some of this tight end stuff is being exaggerated a little bit. They are going to want to be deep. We just talked about how we want them and think they might add a guy in the draft and in free agency. But Tesla will still have plenty of opportunities. It's just more than anything, he's going to have to justify a bigger role. He's going to have to show that maybe he can do some of the 13-ish personnel type of things. He's going to have to show that he deserves more playing time, because you're not just going to give it to him because you drafted him high, because you invested a lot in him. He's got to go out there and earn it. And if he shows out there that to Drew Petzing that like, hey, I'm just as good as your tight end too as a weapon against this team, then he's going to get those opportunities.
So just to give you an idea, looking at last year's snap counts, JMO played 90% of the team's offensive snaps. Amon-Ra played 85% of the offensive snaps because Tesla was just under 40 and Khalif was at 33. And then that was pretty much it amongst the receivers. Everybody else is less than 2%. Okay. My point here is you're going to lose. Khalif is going to lose some of the, you may have to replace Khalif's reps. And even if half of them go to Tesla, that only bumps him up to 55%, which is around how we kind of finished the season. So it's not going to be like this significant like shift where the Lions are only using 2 wide receivers now. Right. There's still going to be a lot of 3 wide receiver concepts.
John on Twitter asks, with Petzing having worked with David Njoku when he was with the Browns, is that a realistic free agent target, but at the expense of Brock Wright? Is Brock Wright? I see Brock Wright has a potential out this year, $3.9 million dead cap if cut, or would the Lions have enough room for Laporta, Njoku, and Wright? Really quick note on Njoku, his contract voids in a month in February 13th. With $24 million in dead cap for the Browns. So there is incentive on their end to get an extension because he just signed an option bonus last year that is prorated 4 years in advance. So like the contract is split out that things could be nice for him, nice for the team. I should say, in keeping some of those cap hits in further years if they agree to an extension, but who knows what they're going to do because they don't have a head coach right now. So Njoku is certainly an option on the table. I still think there's probably a bigger likelihood that he signs an extension there just the way that contract is set up. But I don't know. What are your thoughts? Do you have thoughts on Njoku as a possible target? I think he's 29 at this point in his career. Might be a little pricey.
Yeah, price tag is going to be the issue, right? Yeah. If you look back to those Cleveland days, Njoku was tight end number 1, but Austin Hooper was tight end 2, and there was even a season when Hooper was number 1 and Njoku was number 2. Well, Hooper's a free agent as well. And so he's another guy that they could maybe be like, hey, not going to be as expensive, right? And so maybe this is a guy that they take a look at. There's a couple other Arizona tight ends that were on the roster last year that maybe, they're not necessarily going to challenge Brock Wright, but, they could be tight end 3, tight end 4 type challengers. Sure. Farrell Brown. What's the other one? Joseph DeGaria. They're back end tight ends, but they're going to know the system and they could fill a role as like I said, like a 3 or 4. So yeah, if I'm going into free agency, I'm looking at I might have a conversation with Njoku and Hooper, but there's actually a surprising amount of good tight ends on the free agent market this year. So if you don't want to spend money and you still want to get a talented tight end, I do think that's a possibility because when you have a market that has a lot of talent, the prices tend to dip a little bit. So
Did you
I'm
just give
keeping
us
an
a
eye on
supply
that.
and demand lesson?
Essentially. The one that most people are going to point out is Taysom Hill in New Orleans, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to look at him and they're going to say, "Hey, wouldn't Taysom Hill be fun as like a tight end 2 or tight end 4?" And there's a connection because Dan coached him for all
Of
those
course.
years, right? So, um, but there's others. There's a fair amount of tight ends that I could dig in that tight end 2 or 3 role.
All right. Next question here comes from Brennan says, how much offensive staff changes additions do you see happening? I don't imagine a vast overhaul or anything. Also, do you think the Lions reach out to McDermott if he doesn't get a head coaching job as a senior defensive assistant or other role? Would he even be a good fit schematically? Let's start with the offensive staff. I think I'm kind of with him. Like, I don't think Scotty's going anywhere. Mark Brunell, Tashard, Hank. Those guys are probably not going there. David Shaw is the one I'd point to where I'm like, I don't know. Because he felt like he was a John Morton guy. I don't know what the Lions think of the job he did.
Right.
He's obviously interviewed for the Bucks OC, I think, job. I don't know if he's a serious candidate necessarily for that or not, but like he's probably the one guy where I'm like, he might not return. So you would need a pass game coordinator and obviously a tight ends coach. Like those to me are maybe the two positions. Again, where like Petzing might just bring a guy with him. It's been a lot of talk about the tight ends coach there in Arizona. We don't know what his contract situation is like. I think that's kind of like a key component of this. Like, is he free to be a tight ends coach elsewhere? We don't really know. And we certainly don't know what the Cardinals think of him because they don't have a coaching staff right now. They don't have a head coach. But I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on the offensive coaching staff here in Detroit and where there might be changes?
No, that I kind of align with that. I think they obviously need a tight ends coach. And then the idea of potentially needing more of like a specialist type coach as opposed to a position coach, whether it's a passing game specialist or just a role like kind of like what they did with Tuiasosopo last year, where they're like, "Hey, we're going to bring you in. We don't know we're going to fit you, but we like you and we want to help develop you, and we think we can utilize your intelligence somewhere." I could see them adding another guy like that.
Yeah, Ben Steele is the Cardinals tight ends coach, and I think a lot of people are already kind of like making that connection. Obviously, what he's done with McBride is pretty darn impressive.
Yeah.
And you know, he's been coaching in the NFL for 12 years, so plenty of experience. Was in Denver before this, so you know, there's even like a mild John Morton, Sean Payton. Actually, I think that was pre-Sean Payton. Anyways, point being, very, very much a good fit in every possible way, right? It's just a matter of availability. Can they pull him from an Arizona team that I'm sure they recognize how good of a tight ends coach he is too. They saw what he did with Trey McBride, and so if he's under contract, there may be some pressure from the interior, the front office to keep him around, no matter who the next head coach is there. All right, next question from Steven Tabrick.
There's back.
Oh, you're right. The back end, the McDermott stuff. Yes.
I don't really have an opinion on whether or not he would mesh with the staff. I do like the concept of saying, "Hey, come on and be a defensive advisor."
Yeah.
I don't know if he would take that type of role. It seems like a pretty significant shift. He's probably more likely to get another head coaching job than he is to do something like that.
Yes.
So I don't think he would. I don't think he would make that shift. Is I guess what I'm saying. I do like the idea of the Lions adding a person like that, but I don't know if McDermott would do it.
Senior defensive assistant has kind of been on the wish list all offseason, and who knows if the Lions are going to go that route or not. But McDermott to me is just he's too. You're hiring a CEO for a janitor job. Like that seems offensive. But the point being, like, he's overqualified. He's way overqualified. He's, like you said, I think there's very much, I don't know how many there's still like 6 or 7 head coach openings, and he just got put on the market. So I'd love it, but I don't think it's going to happen. Stephen T with the next question from Twitter says, do you think the OC hire changes the future of David Montgomery, whether that be how the team looks at using him versus how he thinks he'll be used there?
Yeah, I think yes to all of that. I think he'll look at the situation saying, boy, there's an opportunity that maybe wasn't there last year. I also believe the team is going to look at this and say, we need a David Montgomery type running back on the roster. And so, yeah, I think it's a nice marriage all around for Demo.
Yeah. I'm really interested to see what those conversations, I would love to know what they look like already, because clearly I think David Montgomery has already had conversations with the front office. I mean, pretty much every player does in an exit interview.
Sure.
And by what Brad Holmes said in his end of season presser, it certainly seems like there was some discontent there, probably coming from Montgomery's side. So if that's the case, I don't know if an offensive coordinator hire is going to change his mind and be like, oh, you know what? I do think I'm going to be valued here, because I like that. It's one thing to say that you value someone, because the Lions have been pretty consistent all through this year that they value David Montgomery. They want to find ways to get him more involved. It's another thing to actually do it, right? And I think there's a lot of things that factored into why David Montgomery didn't get the role that he thinks he deserved. Part of it was the Lions were just not particularly good at running the football, so they ran less plays. They ran the ball less overall. They found themselves down in more games instead of up late in games, so they weren't trying to bleed clock. They were trying to come back. And then obviously Jahmyr Gibbs had the season he did. And so I think you can square those first two, right? You can run the ball more this upcoming year. You can get ahead in games and that way give David Montgomery the ball. But how can you convince David Montgomery that he's going to get things like they were in 2023 when you have Jahmyr Gibbs? Because the one thing that was within the Lions' control that they can't use as an excuse was David Montgomery was the starting running back for every single game he was healthy in 2023 and 0 of the games in 2024 and 0 of the games in 2025. Jahmyr Gibbs was the starting back every single game. And so there was a shift, right? There whether it wasn't as intentional, it wasn't as drastic as they wanted it to, it was more drastic than they wanted it to be, but there was a shift. There was a mindset that Jahmyr Gibbs is clearly the 1A to David Montgomery's 1B, and that's going to be on Montgomery to come to terms with. If he's okay being 1B and, you know, maybe not a distant 1B, but like we're talking like a 65-35 split probably in terms of touches going forward. Like I don't think that's going to change. He's got to be okay with that, because that's not changing. He's not going to be 1A again. They're not going to go back to that. Maybe in some instances, but I don't see the Lions saying, okay, Jahmyr Gibbs, we're going to have David Montgomery be the guy that sets the tone at the beginning of the games again. I don't think they're going to do that.
Yeah, I keep going back to some of the podcasts that Montgomery did last offseason,
sure,
where he talked about seeing this coming. Like he talked about Gibbs and said, hey, look, if he's not already the best running back in the league, he's going to be this year. Like he's known things were headed in this direction for a while. So I don't think he was as caught off guard as I think maybe some are suggesting.
Sure.
That like, oh, he didn't see it coming and blah, blah, blah. Like, no, look, if there's anybody that's aware of how good
Yeah.
Gibbs is. It's the guy who plays at the exact same position next to him every single day. Like
No
it's
doubt.
it's David, right?
Yeah. It's just a matter of whether he's like, again, like it's one thing to like know and see that's coming. It's probably another to experience it, especially during a tough season where he probably felt like he could have helped the team out a little bit more than he had the opportunities to. Tim Bowers asked, is this offensive coordinator hire really that huge of a turning point in Dan Campbell's coaching tenure? I see Dan lasting as long as Tomlin or John Harbaugh rather than a McDermott. Yeah, I picked this question because I've seen a lot of takes out there and things written of nature as like, this will decide Dan Campbell's future. This hire is the pivot point in his career. If it works, he'll stay. If it doesn't, he's gone. How do you feel about that?
Nope. I don't feel about. I don't think that's a. I don't think it at all.
Okay.
I've seen people say, "Oh, Dan's on the hot seat. Brad's on the hot." I'm not buying it. I'm not buying any of it. Brad is in a contract year or in a year where he's re-signing all pros from his class, from his rookie class to extensions. Brad's in a fine spot. Dan's probably in an even better spot. He's taken this team to the playoffs in back-to-back seasons. He misses it, but he still has a winning season. Told you that extra game, that extra win, it changes mindsets, right? And so, you've got another winning season, even though you missed the playoffs. Dan's success on the field and how far he can take them is going to transcend his future, or be a catalyst in where his future goes, more than an OC hire. If the OC hire fails again, he's still not going to be on the hot seat, in my opinion. Like he might be getting closer,
Yeah,
but he's still going to get another shot. Like it's not like if this OC hire doesn't work out that Dan's all of a sudden like going to get fired next OC.
no, that's not
What he's done, the culture change, the impact that he's had. He can have multiple. I think he could have 2 losing seasons before he's like on the hot seat.
And I saw this. I only saw the title because it popped up on my phone. There's this reaction to this specific season that I think is going to cause some teams to do some stupid things, and may have already caused it.
Wild reactions,
because we saw a lot of first-year head coaches see a lot of success this year. We saw Liam Cohn do it. We saw Ben Johnson do it. Mike McDonald with the Seahawks. Like these quick fixes. These all you need to do is make the change. And I don't know if this was a direct reaction of it, but like now we saw some teams that have had very long sustained success say, you know what? We're going to try our hand at being a 1 year, like, let's turn this around in an instant. Let's get over the hump in Buffalo. Let's get over the hump in Seattle, in Pittsburgh, and let's get over the hump in Baltimore. And it's easy to point to 1 year and say, wow, look how good it works. But my goodness, you do not need to go that far back in history to see all the times it doesn't work.
Look at the Titans. They're like, Vrabel's not good enough for us. Let's get rid of him. And 1 season later,
yes.
Vrabel has the number 1 team in the AFC, right? Like, right.
So I think people are already getting to that. Like, the part of the fan base is already getting tired of like just competing for the Lions, even though it's been 3 years of competitive football, 4, I guess. I don't think Dan Campbell's anywhere close to the hot seat yet. Now, if this fails, it's fair to point out that he had then failed in 3 of his 4 offensive coordinator hires, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people seem to not want to give him credit for Ben Johnson because Ben Johnson was already in the building. I think that underscores.
Ben Johnson was with Dan back in Miami. Like he knew Ben. It wasn't like he stumbled into Ben and was like, "Hey," like he had a history with Ben.
Right. But he was already in the building. It wasn't someone he went out and found, which is it's a little bit different. It's not a lot different because he made the decision to give him play calling
and then promote him. Yes.
And all of those things. And he deserves credit for that, no doubt. But I think I think if it's another one and done situation in particular, then like I think there's now legitimate concern about Dan not being able to find that guy, not being able to get the offense to who he wants to be. Now, I think it also depends on how it looks like. If it looks like, yeah, you know, it's another top 10 scoring offense, but it's not the efficiency that this team wants. We still need to like acknowledge that that's not a bad season for the offense, right? There's still like, even this past year it certainly was a disappointing season for the offense, but it wasn't an absolute disaster. If this is an absolute disaster of a hire, then yeah, I think you go into 2027 and say, hey, if you don't get this offensive coordinator hire in shape and you don't get the offense in shape, then we have some serious issues, because you're like the offensive minded head coach. You're the guy that people are you know, trying to say like, hey, don't doubt his X's and O's smarts on offense. And so if it goes on a continued downward trajectory after Ben Johnson leaves, I think there's a fair point to be like, okay, this is it, Dan. Like 2027, you better prove yourself, buddy.
I think there's a little bit more leeway. I
wouldn't
really
be surprised because I think this front office, I think this ownership is in love with Dan Campbell.
Yeah, because it's a complete culture change that he's at the forefront of.
Sure.
Right. So,
yeah.
Like, I don't know. I look around the league at some of the coaches that were hired in around the similar time, like Kevin O'Connell.
Right.
Like, would you say like he had a successful season? No, but is he on the hot seat? No. Right. Like, I think it's a similar.
But what's LaFleur? Like LaFleur's kind of in a
that's Green Bay. That's Green Bay though. Like Green Bay's just they're a bunch of people with high expectations, I guess.
Oh man, I was hoping for a much better noun than that. People. I would maybe push back on that. Lizard people. That's who they are. All right, let's move on to the next question. Kyle E. from our Pride of Detroit Direct subscriber network says, a lot of fans are questioning Dan's ability to pick a coordinator after firing Morton within less than a year. Was Morton's failure all his fault, or did the loss of Ragnow, amongst other factors, lead to his downfall? Is the change at OC more about needing someone that can help them reinvent their identity, or was Morton just a bad hire?
No, I do think Morton was strapped with some more challenges than Ben was, because the loss of Ragnow was significant. You had to reinvent the youth on the inside and of the offensive line. And so there were some hurdles that he had to overcome. I mean, look, Ben, let me rephrase this. Ben had harder stuff to overcome in the early days of his OC, not as much in the last two seasons. Right. But with Morton, there were some things for him to overcome. At the same time, those were not the things that got him fired. What got him fired was his play calling, his inability to adjust, specifically in game. Yeah. I go back to that Minnesota game in Week 9 where he had no answers. Yeah. For what Flores was doing, and so those errors weren't something that he could fix. And I believe they saw those errors in the first half of the season. And then going into the bye, they said, these need to be fixed. You need to be making better strides. And then you come out of the bye and that's the game you put up. And Dan said, the season's going to be lost if I don't step in. Right. And so I really think what happened with him was 90% of the reason he got fired was play calling.
I think that's probably fair. I think there was probably a better chance of him returning in a lessened role if the weird media session stuff didn't happen. Where that's probably the other 10%.
Right.
Like maybe not clearly threw the offensive line under the bus, but came pretty close to throwing the offense. Especially after that Vikings game, we're talking to offensive linemen. They're saying like they just out schemed us, and John Moran's up there saying like they just out physicaled us. It's just like, there's a disconnect there. And when you say stuff like that, it does get back to the players. And
certainly.
I can't say specifically with direct knowledge that the players may have been put off by some of the things John Morton was saying about, hey, we can't do anything on offense if we don't get pushed, if we don't protect. But I'd probably be a little pissed. Even if it were true, right? Like, even if it were true, your job as a coach that goes in front of the media every single week is to protect your players and take responsibility. And I didn't see a lot of responsibility taking from him all season. So in that sense, like, he didn't help himself out. And maybe he was never going to come back anyways, because you lost offensive play calling duties, like we said before. Like, there's not a lot of coming back from that. But Dan did admire him a lot. And Dan did talk extensively about how hard that guy works from Monday to Saturday.
And look, he immediately got hired as a consultant for the Broncos, right, to help them for their playoff push. So it's not like he doesn't have his attributes.
Yep.
But I do think, while I heavily think the decision to move on from him was play calling, that other 10%, I believe, was his inability to connect with the offensive line. And, I wonder if there's more to it. I've heard some rumors, but I don't have anything substantial to report on it. But it seems like there's some disconnection there.
Yeah. All right. 2 more here to go. Thomas S., Lions UK NFL on Twitter, says, do you think the issues that arose from a lack of experience at the interior offensive line this year make it more likely the Lions target veterans at left tackle and center this offseason rather than repeat the problem again by drafting a younger player?
Yeah, I think you got to get a veteran at 1, and my preference would be center. Yeah. Getting stability in the middle with the 2 younger guards, I think, would have a bigger impact. Additionally, there's more value from a financial standpoint at getting a left tackle than getting a center. Trying to get a left tackle on a cap-controlled rookie contract for 5 years is a heck of a lot better than getting a center for 4. So I certainly think drafting a center is not as likely as drafting the tackle.
I agree with everything you said there. The one thing I will say, though, is I think they're going to get starting capable guys at both positions in free agency. I don't think the Lions are going to go into the draft saying, if we don't get a left tackle and Taylor Decker retires, we're screwed. Like, they are not going to go into the draft saying, well, we're empty at left tackle right now. We have to do everything we can to get the best left tackle that's available to us, whether that means trading up or drafting the guy who's there at 17. They won't put themselves in that position. A lot of people look, and unless like both of the Cardinals tackles are free agents, Jonah Williams and Kelvin Beachum. And so like those are options. Beachum is coming off of a $4 million a year contract. Like that a signing like that, if he's still willing to play, is 36.
OT3
makes a ton of sense. Where it's just like, yeah, he's your OT3. He could start if you have to. If things don't work out the way you want to in the draft, you need to have that option. And I'm also with you that like even putting like money aside, I would just rather have the more experienced, knowledgeable player at center than I would at left tackle. Not that left tackle isn't important. It is. But like a lot of times you're left there out on an island, which is just dude against dude. If you're in center, like you're in the mix of everything. You're calling out coverages, you're adjusting protections, you're sliding people over, you're communicating with everybody. I'd rather have the veteran experienced guy right there. All right, last one from @LionsRoyal TE on Twitter says, is there anything you would like to see the Lions adopt from teams that have made the championship games with regards to scheme, personnel, and team building strategy? If so, how likely is it that they adopt it? For example, Rams using 13 personnel.
Yeah, I'd like that. I think that'd be a good one.
Yep. Fair. Go ahead.
Yeah, certainly. Like that we've been talking about 13 for months now.
Yeah.
It feels like, right? And so that ability to utilize 13 puts defenses in such a tough spot. The Rams showed it effectively. The Lions have, I think, the mindset to run that style. Now you bring in an OC that essentially evolved those 13 concepts. And so that's something absolutely is going to be, something that you need to utilize. But I'm going to flip it to the other side.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk about how Houston and Denver have essentially gotten to this point.
Houston.
Not Houston.
But they got as far as they did. I mean,
but they got to where they did before they just, decided to turn the ball over 100 times. And on their defense, on their pass rush, right?
Yep.
And so I would love to see the Lions say, look, we do prioritize the run, but we've seen these teams that have invested in their pass rush, go to great lengths in the playoffs. Even New England's pass rush has really dialed up this year more than I think people expected. And so getting that pass rush element is something that I really want to see the Lions incorporate more and move away from the run stopping first ideology.
Yeah. With Seattle though, like Seattle's got the best all-around team, the best defense.
Yeah, but they're attacking, right?
It's just a more aggressive mindset. To me, it's kind of less about personnel. It's more just about Mike Macdonald and everything he does.
Yeah, I mean he's basically created in Seattle the Baltimore team that he used to run that was so just devastating.
They did not have an individual with more than 7 sacks, but they had 3 different individuals with 7 sacks. Byron Murphy is probably their best pass rusher, an interior guy. 54 pressures according to PFF. They credit him with 9 sacks, but he's only had 7 officially. But like I look at that defense and actually I look at them and be like, dang, their secondary is good. And to me, it's almost like it's not far off from where the Lions are trying to be, where they've been putting so much investment into their safeties, into their corners, into their nickel, and they found it work. It's just like Seattle's just been a little bit better at acquiring those guys. A
lot of the reason, though, Denver and Seattle's secondaries are so good is because their pass rush gets home, right?
Yeah.
Same. Yeah. And so I actually think they have pieces, and the Lions have pieces in their secondary, but they're missing. No doubt. They're missing that opposite Aiden pass rusher. I've always taken the approach of, we've listened to fans just say, oh, they need a burner off the edge. They need a burner off the edge for years. And I've always said, no, it just doesn't fit their system. I'm now to a point where I think they need to adjust their system.
Right. And just get a Nick Bonito.
Dude, if they could get that type of guy, there's some interesting options in this class. There's some interesting options in this class if they stay with what they have, or if they want to make an adjustment to be more aggressive. Yeah, there's choices for them to have.
All right, I think we're gonna leave it there. Thank you all for listening. I think this week we're gonna try again to do some office hours over on the website. If you missed out last week, that's just a post on the website prideofdetroit.com where last week it was Eric and I and Ryan was in on there, and I think was Al in there?
Miko
was in on there too, yeah. And I think Al was asking questions, which is funny. But basically, like, you jump into the comment section, ask any questions you want. We try to answer as many as we can in 2-ish hours. So go to prideofdetroit.com, look for the office hours post on Thursday afternoon, maybe. And of course, if you missed any of this, if you're watching live and you missed any of this, you can listen to us on whatever podcasting platform. We just got over 900 reviews on Apple Podcasts, so thank you all for that. I know that was something I was asking for a couple weeks ago, and you guys delivered. Over 1.4 thousand reviews or ratings on Spotify, so thank you to all of our Spotify listeners as well. And of course, if you want our in-between segment talks and you want to see our pretty faces, you can always go to youtube.com/prideofdetroit or twitch.tv/prideofdetroit and catch full replay. But until next time, that's Eric. I'm Jeremy. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for supporting us. It's chaos. Be kind.
Recording stopped.
All right. We did, guys.
It's a good thing we did the 10-1 because I got an alert in the middle.
School.
My middle schoolers are getting dumped early. So I knew it was going to happen. I knew they were going to push him out early today. So I will have to bail a little bit earlier than I was expecting, but hey, we moved the window up, so I still have time.
That's right.
But yeah, I saw that right in the middle of us talking. I was like, oh, those bastards.
What? By the way, I don't know how much of our live audience is seeing this, but like there's some drama happening in Buffalo right now.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
I know that there's like a whole big there's all this behind the scenes stuff about not agreeing that McDermott not agreeing with like how the roster was built or how much talent was on the roster and stuff like that, right?
Well, okay, like right before we went on, I told you one of the things that Billy Beane said, their general, or no, it was the owner who said like, yeah, we fired Sean McDermott based on what happened in the Denver game. And
which is weird.
Right.
But
like that's super reactionary, like incredibly dumb. And you know, that game could have gone in a very different direction. Now there's a lot of this Keon Coleman stuff where Billy Beane was answering, this is according to Adam Schefter, says, as Buffalo GM Brandon Beane was answering a question about Keon Coleman and the Bills wide receivers, Terry Pagula, who I assume is the owner, said, "Can I interrupt? I'll address the Keon situation. This coaching staff pushed to draft Keon." He's still on the team! And you're like, we didn't want him. The coaching staff that's no longer here want. What are you doing?
They don't like him. For whatever reason, they don't like him.
That's wild. Oh, this is why I'm like, I was hoping that Sheila would be a little bit more transparent and would talk to the media a bit more than her predecessors, and she does, but like we still never hear from her. Right. But when stuff like this happens, I'm like, you know what, Sheila, stay in the shadows. You can like to see what some of these other idiot owners are doing to their own teams. I'm fine if I never see Sheila Hamp again.
They're gonna trade him. They're gonna trade him for like a 7th round pick.
Now. They basically just said we don't want him.
Look, he's on a rookie contract. I'll take him for a 7th. Why not?
Yeah, I guess.
You don't need him.
No.
Turn him into, put some weight on him.
Does he play tight end? Jeez. I just wanted to know that Coleman is a hoe.
That Coleman is what?
Oh,
jeez.
I think you should leave reference that we may have used for a certain
Carlos. Yeah, no, I have the screenshot.
Right. Yeah,
I have the Carlos is a hoe screenshot that I use every once in a while. Oh boy! All right, I took a lot of notes
during this podcast.
No, leading up to this podcast.
Oh,
I got to use a lot of them. Trying to think if there's any that I took that I didn't use. My desk looks like a beautiful mind right now. It's just got all these little like notes all over. I have paper, like old school paper that I'm highlighting stuff.
Are you printing out articles just to highlight them?
No.
What is that?
It's something.
Okay.
But it's something that I was having a hard time focusing on with the screen. I don't know if my glasses were bothering me or what it was, but just it was information passed along to me.
Gotcha.
And then, but like, I have them like this crap. It's all over my whole desk. It's ridiculous.
Take a picture and post it on social media.
No, I don't want
Why?
people to know my information. Make them listen. I got most. I
No,
think
I
I
mean
got most
just
of it
what it
out.
looks like. If you want, you can blur it like the Lions do when they do their inside the den for the draft. Just like blur your big boards. Um,
But
Vincent, by
look,
the way, thank you for the $5 super chat on YouTube. Says I'm genuinely worried for Amon-Ra St. Brown, not only in fantasy but in real life, as that football terrorist had MHG, Marvin Harrison Jr. running only go routes. He can't be trusted.
wait, say that again.
Vincent is
What?
worried because
Yeah,
he
is
he
that?
referred,
Are you talking about the Amon Ra post that Amon Ra put
no, no,
up?
no, no. He's
Oh,
he's calling Petzing a football terrorist because he had Marvin Harrison Jr. running only go routes. He can't be trusted.
there's go routes in his concepts. Like I jotted down a couple of plays that I looked at, and like you can see go route, and then this one's the crosser,
Yeah, yeah.
the Josh Reynolds special. But like that's part of his concepts is he'll use an outside receiver to like
Stretch the
run
field.
off.
Yeah,
Yeah, to run off spaces underneath him. Because like some of the stuff that I watched, he's running that Z
yeah.
like 30 yards and making the corners turn and run with them. And then
Hitting
crossing
a
the
crosser
field
underneath. Yeah,
underneath, and then if you run a mesh underneath that with either your back, he's running into like
wide open spaces.
huge open spaces, and I'm
Yeah,
like, holy cow. And
right.
then like some of the screen concepts, it's not just like let's put trips out there and then throw a screen and the first two guys block and the other guy, like some of their screen concepts this year were just dog, like it's just
The Lions or Cardinals?
Lions.
Yeah,
Some of the Lions screen concepts were not. Look, I know they were successful with some of their screen concepts, but they were kind of like, eh. I didn't really like a lot of them.
I
Some of
really
the
wish I
Cardinals,
would have just heard you say dog water because it seems like something that someone 30 years younger than you would say.
but some of the Arizona stuff I thought was neat. It's
Yeah, yeah.
tight end block, and then I blocked. Now I
Then I leak.
release,
Yeah,
and the linemen get out, and I'm like, that's
yep,
easy concept that the
yeah.
Lions can run,
Right.
and so there's enough stuff that I've seen that makes me excited because I'm like, the Lions don't do that, and if they did,
It
they'd
would
eat.
work. Right.
Yeah, right. And
Yeah.
I'm like, geez, this would work, and this would work, and so I'm hoping that
Yeah.
like these ideas get incorporated because if they do, you get Sam Laporta in space. You run Jameer on a mesh, and you get him in space. Like
Yeah.
you can get these guys doing like some really cool stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still getting there.
Yeah. And I'll shout out all 22 films on YouTube.
Yeah, he had some good stuff too.
I was watching a little bit of that this morning. And he tends to just do a really good job. I think in general tends to lean positive on most things Lions because I think he knows that's a big part of his fan base. But I think either way, like he knows what he's talking about and diving into stuff that a lot of times I haven't been able to dive into any of Drew Petzing's film yet, watch a ton of his plays yet, and
Yep.
I think he does a good job.
The game I'm going to try and watch as soon as I get a chance is I want to watch the week 3 Lions game from 24.
Yeah.
They were coming off, Cardinals were coming off 2 really good games. I think they were 1-1 because they lost to the Bills in week 1, but then they smashed the Rams in week 2.
Okay.
And so then they played the Lions in week 3. And this was the year that Arizona's offense did well. And so that's the game that I'm going to try and watch. If I can watch it today or tomorrow. It wasn't a lot.
Points that game.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a lot. But I'm going to watch that game against the Lions, and then I want to watch what they did against. Then I'll go back and watch the Rams game from the week prior, and I want to see like what was different. Why was it different? Why were they able to do what they did? Because that was an interesting season for them. So
Yeah.
that's where they had their most success. That's kind of what I'd like to see a little bit more of. I'm going to focus a little bit more on that season if I can.
I think
I'm going to start with that Lions game.
What's interesting about that 2024 season, and I didn't realize it until I did my 3-year breakdown of what he did, was for as bad as 2025 was in terms of injuries everywhere, they were without their starting right tackle and right guard for more than half the season as well in 2024. It's just that's not an ideal situation either.
They also had to start Tristan Colon for 7 games in that 24 season.
Right. Yeah. Jonah Williams missed 11 games. Will Hernandez missed 12.
How many did Jonah miss this year? Because he was injured in week 1, 8. Right? So
8.
That's the thing. You look at him in free agency and you're like, oh, that'd be an interesting fit. But then you're like, oh, he's also been injured at least 8 games in each of the last 2 years, right?
Will Hernandez is exactly in that conversation too, where a lot of people are like, oh, internal help. Will Hernandez, scheme fit. Missed 12 games in 2024, missed 10 this year. So he's missed more games than he's played in the past 2 seasons. So
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. He did show a lot of Petzing attacking McDonald's defenses. It's interesting.
The all-22 guy?
Yeah.
Isn't he? I think he's a Ravens fan, isn't he? Or is he a Lions fan too?
He's starting to focus a lot of his stuff on Lions stuff because I don't know, he did 1 or 2 videos that were just yeah. There was 1 or 2 videos that he did, and Lions fans caught wind of it, and he's like, "Oh dang, these guys are awesome. These fans are awesome. Let's learn more about them."
I feel like I've seen a lot of his. I feel like I've seen him do. He did one on Ben. He did one on James Houston.
No, he definitely specifically focuses on them, the Ravens. And there's another team, Seattle. He did. I know he did a video about Jack Campbell's year after he went All Pro. I haven't looked at it yet.
Okay.
But, yeah. He does good work over there. That's what we need to do. We need to stop talking about people we don't like and talk about the people we do like. All 22 Films guy on YouTube. Good job. Foxtrot, thank you for the follow. Germsman, thank you for the follow as well. What's your out now? Do you got to get going here?
No, I have some time. They're just getting released about a half hour or something like that early.
Okay. Roughly. Uncle Indigo. Whoops. We want to move that box up. 53 months. Indigo, I feel like I haven't seen you in chat in a while. Hope you're doing okay, bud. Thank you for the 53 months of support. Apparently Amon Ra finally has done a new podcast. I kind of was wishing he would do a podcast last week when his former wide receivers coach was one of the candidates. I've already forgotten the man's name.
I'm sorry.
I wanted to hear his thoughts on the USC wide receivers coach.
Oh, T. Martin?
T. Martin.
Yeah. T. Martin was a quarterback. That's why I always think of him that way. Quarterback at Tennessee. Quarterback in the NFL. Quarterback's coach, mainly.
We'll watch Amon Ra's little clip.
Yeah.
Here.
Someone dropped that in our Slack, so I was gonna flag that and watch that later.
Hold on.
Morgan did.
Let me share it with you so you can hear it. And share audio. Here we go.
I see crazy Lions fans talking crazy oh, why would we do this? Bro, do you guys have no trust in Dan? In the Lions, you think they would just hire a random dude? Be for real. You think they don't know what they're doing? They don't do their research. They don't interview. Most of you guys don't know really much about anything, about any ball.
Wow. Wow.
And you're tweeting about a coach that was hired that you guys don't like because of XYZ. it's just funny to me to see. Don't get me wrong, I love all Lions fans, but they are so quick to make, judgments about who we hired, who we did this. Like, bro, just relax, calm down. Like, let the whole thing play out. Like, you guys just let it play out. Just relax. That's all I gotta say. Relax, man. Relax.
Okay. He's mostly not wrong. But here's the thing. I also don't think as a fan you need to just sit there and just be like, I trust. Like that's not helpful either. Like I'm trying to get my point across out without saying do your own research because that comes with its own negative connotations. But like I don't think blind faith is also a good place to be. You know?
There's also something to be said to the fact that the coaching staff has, again, this goes back to me saying there's a group of people that don't think the Lions even interviewed him. They just straight up hired him. Like, right. Trust in the fact that your coaching staff has done the research. I guess that's something that you should think.
Right.
Like, right.
But again, I understand some skepticism considering that 2 of Dan Campbell's 3 hires at the offensive coordinator positions were one and dones.
I get that, and I'm not disputing that.
Yeah.
At the same time, admitting that they know more than we do is okay.
100%. And I feel like I try to say that all the time on this podcast.
I feel like that's kind of what he was trying to say, but instead he just insulted a lot of people.
He did. And listen, I feel like immediate reaction stuff. Like everyone just needs to take a breath before they even react to it, right? That's the part that bothered me is where everyone like when we're live, it's like everyone just immediately like looks, oh my God, this was the 27th ranked offense last year. F this guy, right? Like that. Right. That is a non-helpful, non-informed opinion, and you're flipping off the rails for nothing. If you go ahead and 24 hours later, 48 hours later, you're still like, I don't get this. The Lions had the best opportunity out there. They could why didn't they even sit on their hands for a little bit and interview Joe Brady or whatever? Like, that's fine. Like that's a fine opinion to have, and because I mean it's I guess what I'm trying to say is like I don't like the polar ends. I don't like the let's freak out immediately because Cardinals fans hate this guy. But also like don't be the person that's just like, well, I'm going to trust Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell and whatever they do. Because then you're basically saying they don't make mistakes. What do they do?
Basically, don't make tweets that you're going to want to delete later.
Yeah, hashtag never tweet. Never tweet. I don't know how many times I can say that. Everyone else needs to follow that advice, even though I don't. That's what I need. I should be the only one tweeting. That's my point.
Do you know how many times we have to remind like our staff to adapt the Cato rules? Like there's a lot of really good advice out there, but we need to do a better job of following it, right?
Pride of Detroit alum Andrew Cato. Very much a don't engage with anybody mentality when it comes to
don't engage with people you don't need to is what it is. It's not a don't engage with anybody. It's a if this person is trying to be an agitator, you can ignore them. Let them be one. Just let them be an agitator to somebody else. Right. Because if they're going to they're looking for and so he very smartly advises us to don't take the bait.
To not hit send.
Yeah, don't take the bait, and that goes like it applies a lot. And
I know the thing that makes it hard for me sometimes is I know a lot of you guys love it. I know a lot of our fans love it when we clap back, and they're like, I want to see you like that. That's fun, Jeremy. I love snippy Jeremy. I'm just like, but I don't love Snippy Jeremy. Because behind Snippy Jeremy is also very frustrated Jeremy, and Jeremy who's constantly refreshing Twitter to see if he's going to respond to my Snippy comment.
I have done my best to not engage like in an argumentative way this year, 2026 year. 3 weeks in, trying to do my best.
You still free?
No, well, look, maybe accidentally, I like somebody said something that I didn't think was appropriate, and then I sent them a GIF, but I sent them a GIF in a way that I thought was like kind of clever and funny, and they did not take it that way. And so I like tried to respond to them and explain like why I chose the GIF that I did, and but then they blocked me, and so they never got my response. And so I was like, do I open up my podcast account and respond from my podcast account so that they can see it? And I'm like, nope. I put it out there. That was it. They didn't get the joke. That's fine. I'm moving on. So that wasn't purposeful. I wasn't trying to purposefully like engage with someone that was being rude. I just accidentally did, I guess.
You better believe I'm looking through your entire thing right now.
No, it wasn't even that bad.
Oh, I immediately see your mistake here.
It's not even that bad.
You told someone to calm down, Eric.
Okay.
That is the worst thing you can ever tell someone and will immediately escalate the situation.
In my defense, I went into that person's profile and I saw that they had used a GIF from an older TV show like 4 or 5 times in their last 5 tweets. And I said, well, I will use a GIF from that same TV show as a funny joke for them. And instead, they did not like it. I was like, hey, you use this gift from this TV show. It's the same reason why whenever I try and send you a gift, I like to send gifts from Community, because I know that you often find those funny. So I'm like, oh, maybe I can find the right Community gift to send Jeremy in this instant. I'm very deliberate with my gift usage. Like I don't just nonchalant fire stuff off.
You missed the mark here. I'm just saying, from an outside perspective, you missed the mark here.
No. First of all, did you see the tweet that they sent me that
back
prompted my my
yes, they said cry. Yeah, which is always like,
and so when someone says cry,
I know
I sent calm down, honey. Like
yeah, I'm sorry. Like that's
funny.
No. I'm sorry.
It's
Eric
in the TV show that they have frequently tweeted. That's funny.
Calm down, honey, and I'm sorry to say, especially because you did it to a woman, makes it
okay.
worse.
First of all, I don't know it's a woman. Okay, because they have a generic GIF and a generic name, and the name is like girl or whatever it was. But like I tried to find a reference that they were in a GIF that they were using.
Yeah,
and so like that was the intention.
Congratulations on doing your research. You still missed the mark.
Nah, they just don't have a sense of humor. I tried to be clever. It's very intentional, my cleverness.
By the way, when you responded to my tweet, I had not even it for whatever reason, I was not clocking the why Kyler Murray sucks at throwing over the middle of the field. I hadn't even considered that he's a shorty. And then when you were when you tweeted that, I wonder why, I was just like, oh, right. I forgot about that whole thing about him. And people are having a field day with that response.
They are. That's the only thing I'm trying to do now. I'm just trying to be clever.
Yeah.
That's it.
Anyways. What? Bubble gut. Yeah, Detroit. Thank you for the 77 months. Subscribe to us on Twitch. Before we know it, we're going to have some 100-month subscribers, and that's going to be
crazy.
Insane. Wagon Maker. think of the 29 months as if this team repeats the results from 2025 and 2026 and the offense struggles again and there's complete underachievement. You can't tell me Campbell isn't on the extremely hot seat. This OC hire is pivotal. You just gave it a shrug.
Yeah, we talked about it.
We did talk about it. Yeah, I think he would go into 2027 on the hot seat. I don't think he would get fired if Petzing doesn't work out, especially if they move on after 1 year, like they kind of have every year. That's okay, Uncle. We still love you, buddy. It's hard to renew your Twitch primes, you know? You don't get an alert.
Because they don't let you do it ahead of time.
You can't do it ahead of time. They don't give you an alert when your Twitch Prime is up. It's how they get you. But, I mean, it is a free way to support us. So, like, I would understand why Amazon is like, don't let them know. Make them pay. Because guess what? If you're a paid subscriber, that just auto-renews. You don't even get a choice. You probably don't even get an alert that it's about to auto-renew. Actually, I think you do. You think Dan will be on the hot seat? Calm down, honey. That is HSW's words, not mine. I would not say that to somebody.
I liked. Did you ever see that show? Like I liked that.
Golden Girls is funny. Golden Girls is great.
Yeah.
I've not seen enough of it. I should see more.
I mean, it's in my age wheelhouse. So.
Yeah. You're gonna be in the male remake of it.
No, but like, look, when I was little and I went over to my grandma's, that's the show we watched. You know what I mean? Constantly.
Yeah, I was just a little too young for that.
Yeah, not me. No, when I was little, that was it. And my grandma was from the South, so like she liked the power, the power woman, the old woman, older woman power, like spunky, like that's the show she liked. Mama's Family. Did you ever see that?
I have seen Mama's Family.
For some reason, that was like Mama's Family.
That was either on TBS or TNT all the time, and for some reason, like I was watching that. There was it wasn't. It was on when I was at my grandma's. I was watching that for some reason, just because like she's a funny character, right? Like the grandma.
Oh yeah,
she's loud and silly and funny.
Oh my grandparents loved those shows. Loved them. That's what I'd watch. I am older than some of the actors at that time. Yes.
Yeah.
Like because the actress who played the character, she was like super young. She just was playing a character.
Right.
I'm blanking on her name. She's super famous too, and I'm blanking on her name. So,
what made me want to watch Golden Girls more again is the main characters watching it on in the show Pluribus, and so we get a couple of scenes from Golden Girls, and I'm like, oh man, that show is funny. I should watch more of it. What is it on?
No,
is it on something?
I don't know.
I think it used to be on Netflix or something.
Vicki Lawrence, that's who was.
Right, that red-haired lady, right?
Yep.
Hulu?
Yep, Vicki Lawrence. She was young but played an older character. Very funny though.
Do you think any of the position coaches are on the hot seat? Ooh,
I don't know. We've talked about this. We've talked about the fact that like it's hard to ascertain like how much fault they carry as position coaches, right? So
trying to think like just like think about units that have underperformed. Not quarterback, not running back, not really tight end, although maybe you could argue. Tight end coach isn't here anymore anyway, so whatever. Offensive line maybe underperformed last year, but they're not going to do anything with Hank. I don't think he's on the hot seat either. I think he's got a lifetime ticket. Defensive line maybe, but do you want to go with a
every year
guy in 6 years or whatever?
Yeah, that's rough.
DBs is a tough one because you dealt with so many injuries.
Your safeties coach is getting DC interviews.
True.
Defensive coordinator interviews. So you're not looking at O'Neal. Right?
Townsend, I don't know. Like Townsend
got interviews for DC last year.
Right.
Like the rest of the league thinks those coaches are good.
And then the linebackers were pretty. I mean, you're just coming off an All-Pro season from Jack Campbell, so I don't think Sean Dion Hamilton is entering this season as on the hot seat.
I don't think they really, outside of a couple of tweaks on offense, I don't think they're that worried. They may add some defensive coaches. That wouldn't be surprising to me.
I would like that.
Because like a lot of their extra coaches, like the coaches they brought in where they weren't sure what they were going to do with them, they were all on offense.
That's true.
You didn't have any defensive guys like that.
Gradkowski. There you go.
Yeah.
I don't think they're like FIP is not even close to in trouble.
No, God, no. No, I mean you have to replace the tight end coach, Uncle. That's the thing.
Yeah. Are you good with Shep coming back? Yeah. Listen, obviously the defense took a step back. Some of that might be injury related. Some of it might not be. But I saw enough. This is going to sound infantile. I saw enough trying. Like I saw enough. Like I'm not going to sit on my hands and just do what we do. He adapted. He tried different things. I feel like it did take him a while to figure out what they did well. And
that's it. First year coordinator, man.
Right.
That comes with the territory.
The most disheartening part of it all was watching the run defense struggle down the stretch. That is a huge concern, and if that continues early into next season, like, well then I'm gonna have some issues. Then I'm gonna have some questions about whether he can do the job. So we'll see. Nick B, thank you for subscribing over on YouTube. Appreciate you. I don't know if you're watching live or if you watched a review of one of our old videos and hit the subscribe button, but either way, appreciate you. Yeah, the Lions should fire the vacant spot on the tight end coach. Yeah, the St. Brown stuff. Again, I think everything he said was true, but I also don't like telling a fan base like, hey, you're not in a position to criticize anything. It's like, okay, what, we're just going to sit here? Should I just sit here and just be like, oh no, just let it play out? That's not particularly fun. Anyways. Something that came up was the cap win. Decker is retained, retired, or cut. Can you review that? So if you cut Decker or he retires, it's basically the exact same thing, where his salary is no longer on the books and you still have to pay all of his guaranteed stuff. If you want to be a jerk, you can try to get some of the remaining guarantees. You're entitled to take back all of the future guarantees. But you may remember with a certain Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders, that does not go over particularly well with the player. So if you want to see the actual what that looks like, more than happy to pull it up here on Over the Cap. Boop. Oop. You guys need to see it. So basically $15 million in base salary comes off as soon as he retires or he's cut, but you have to pay the remainder of his proration signing bonus, and by pay I mean it has to hit the cap, so that's about $9 million, which is why the dead cap there is $9 million, but the salary comes off, so you free up a significant portion there. That's
now
good.
Shift the cut pre-June to post-June, just because people have been talking about that.
Yep. So it looks a lot better. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that I don't love about Over the Cap is that it's like, oh, well, if you just do a post-June, then his dead cap is only $3 million instead of $9 million. No, his dead cap is still the same. It's just $3 million this year and then
the
$6
other
million
two
the next year.
Yeah. Yeah. And the caveat with this is that I'd say 85% of the people miss is that you have to carry the 21 million on the roster until June.
Yes.
Like people think, oh, we can free up $18 million for free agency. No,
you cannot.
Nothing. You free up nothing for free agency.
Yep.
And then in June, you free up 18 million.
Right.
And then you have a 6 million that you push into 2027. So that's a huge caveat that people overlook when they talk about when they talk about June 1st cuts and stuff like that. I saw a tweet this morning about someone saying, oh, just make them a Taylor Decker June 1st cut. You free up $18 million. Yeah, great. Can you hold 21 until June if you're going to go that route, knowing you have to replace a left tackle? Because if that's your plan, you're not going to have the money to spend on it if you're planning the June 1st cut. Right. So like, it's not as simple as just pushing the money.
The only workaround there is like, okay, well, you can earmark some of your salary for your draft picks and not
but that's $8 million
until June. Until June 1st.
That's you're talking $8 million for that, and then you can say, oh well, let's also earmark the $10 million that we're not going to spend in free agency. Okay, well that gets us closer. Right. You know what I mean? But that's still, you're earmarking $21 million in a year that you're $23 million over right now, and that'll be much closer to 7 once they adjust the cap. But still, like, that's a huge amount of money to say, let's just set that aside and still operate with business as usual, just so we can kick $6 million into 2027. It's hard. It's a hard move to make.
The other aspect of this is what I'm highlighting here on the screen. March 15th. It's a very soft deadline. I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions just ate it while they're waiting for Decker to make a decision. But there is a $1.5 million roster bonus due on March 15th, so in a couple months here.
To answer Colorado Lions question, I also don't think they would cut him.
I agree.
He is a guy who's been on the roster his entire career. He is a staple in the room, and the Lions have built themselves into an organization that says we reward our leaders, and he is as big a leader as anyone in that locker room. So no, I don't care what the analytics say. I don't care what your chart says when you read that chart. They're not going to cut his personality.
He's still a pretty good player too.
And I get that people say, oh, well, his money doesn't, or his play doesn't match the salary. That's usually the case with most contracts when you're in the final years of those contracts. You would know almost, because of the way they're backloaded, the way contracts are backloaded now, you often don't see a player's play matching the end of a backloaded contract. And so that's why you usually see restructures with those players. But when the player is nearing retirement and you can't restructure them, you run into a situation like you're in with Decker. And I know that this comes from an ESPN article, right? And they're looking at this idea of cutting him.
Oh yeah, it was Shots.
Shots. Yeah, right. And look, and Shots, he is what he is. He's an
analytical guy, so there's
a lot of takes that I like of his. Right, exactly. That's where I'm going.
Yeah.
I agree with some of his concepts and some of the things he does from an analytical standpoint, but from a non-analytical standpoint, I think he misses the mark often. And this is a situation in which I think he's looking at the numbers on a spreadsheet and not realizing the impact of the player on the organization, in an organization that's built on players like Taylor Decker.
100%. Agree with you. 100. I think 2027 is an interesting conversation as my microphone falls off the desk. Because that is an even bigger salary and less guarantees. And I feel like if he commits to not only this year but next year, I think you're having a conversation about a pay cut in 2027.
Yeah.
Which is not an easy conversation to have with a veteran.
No, but I think if
he sticks around, it's just going to be for one more year, is what you're about to say.
Yeah, I think if he's talking retirement now,
Yeah,
it's at best he's got one more in him, in my opinion.
Glasgow is the other conversation that people want to have, and this one's a little trickier, in my opinion, because you do save more money. There's less guarantees in the future. It's a relatively high salary for someone who might not be earmarked for a starting position next year.
Right.
It is nice to have a versatile backup that can play center, that can play left guard, that can play right guard.
But Cologne can kind of do that, right? And
kind of is the key word there.
Right. Well, kind of, but like that's you.
Here's what I was going to say.
Yes.
Your offensive line is not better without Graham.
No.
And they're looking to get better. And so can you take the $5.5 million and get something better? That's ultimately what the question is. And I don't know what the answer to that is. I really don't. It's not an easy answer. It's not an easy situation, but in an offseason in which you are trying to get better this offseason, like getting better on the offensive line is key. It's essential. It's probably the team's number one goal. You are adding another hole if you cut him. And that's not me advocating for not cutting him or whatever. It's the reality of the situation. You cut him, now there's another hole, whether that's a veteran backup center or a swing guard center or whatever you want to call it. You now have another hole in the offensive line that you need to fix, and you have $5.56 million to do it. That's the trade-off that you have to decide whether it's going to be better for your team or not.
With Graham, he doesn't fall into the same bucket as Decker from a like leadership,
Sure.
intangibles, behind the scenes type of thing. There's like 5 guys on the roster who should basically like almost be untouchable from an intangible standpoint. Goff, Amon-Ra, Sewell, Hutch. And in my opinion, I think Decker falls in that kind of bucket from an intangibles,
right,
behind the scenes, off the field type of situation. Like those are your top 5 leaders.
Yeah.
And Graham's not in that bucket. And so it's not an apples to apples.
Right. People love Graham, to be clear. The locker room loves
100%. 100%. We advocated for Graham when he was in Denver to come back. Like it's not Graham brings positional versatility on the field, levity off the field.
Yeah.
Right. Like he's hilarious. He's probably one of the funniest guys that in that locker room. Right. Yep. And that's an important component of a locker room.
Yep.
It's just, it's different though.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, if you think you can get a veteran or even a younger player that can play guard and backup center and do all that for less than $5.5 million a year, then you make the move. If you don't, then you don't.
So, to keep going with Colorado here, I don't think I would say Graham is a coach on the field necessarily, but to play center, you have to have a wildly high level of intelligence in the NFL. Like you have to have incredible intelligence, and for Graham, and Graham certainly fits that bucket. Like his ability to do this, especially with the Lions, because of the amount of scheme that they run, because of the amount of checks that they do. Like the Lions ask a lot of their center, and Graham being able to step into that role on a whim when Frank was around or injured, and then to do it this year, like it takes an incredibly smart guy. Yeah. Now, I don't know if that counts as coach on the field or not, but like he is, he's one of the smarter football players, certainly.
I feel like I'm trying to find the exact quote, but I feel like Tate said something specifically about Graham at the end of the season in his end of season presser.
You have to be crazy smart. You have to be. Like, I can't imagine Ragnow being a coach. I think he would rather be a player. And if he's not going to be a player, I think he's going to stay at home with his kids. Enjoy the time off. I don't think he's in that bucket yet.
A quote from Tate Ratledge via the Detroit News, and I just clicked off the article like an idiot. It says, Ratledge said Glasgow, quote, has had the biggest influence on me in my rookie year. Just helping me with different things because he was a guard starting out. So it helped me with things, different techniques, different mental things. Just going through the year, he's helped me a ton.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
he
I remember
Graham
talking about it too. He says, I think it's pretty fun to go and give someone a coaching point, and maybe it helps them see something easier. Maybe it makes their life easier. I think Tate was really open to listening to me and Hank and anybody who's willing to give him any sorts of points. At the end of the day, I would give Tate the credit in that regard, because sometimes you can tell someone how to do it a million times. If they don't want to do it, they're not going to do it.
That just described every interaction I have with my 5-year-old.
Do you honestly think Petzing is coming here to install the offense he ran in Arizona? In my opinion, he was hired to run call plays of Dan's offense, same as Ben was hired to do.
I think he's going to run a very similar style of offense that the Lions run, and then I think it's very easy to blend some of the concepts that he did in Arizona into the Lions scheme, because it's not that they're not that different. Right. And so that finessing, the introduction of new ideas in addition to the offense that's already being run, that's what makes him valuable, in my opinion.
I do wonder, like, there's enough overlap there that I think we're not even going to be able to tell, like, whose offense it is. Is this the same offense? Is this like,
yep.
There's going to be, like, every year there's going to be tweaks and different play calls and different schemes here and there that, I think this is going to be a collaboration, and I don't think there's going to be a ton of change, but there's going to be some new looks. I forgot where I was going to go for that, but yeah.
My notes on Petzing's offense is West Coast in nature, 12 and 13 personnel usage, heavy tight ends, physical downhill running, gap oriented, incorporates play action. Like, what's that sound like? Like, that's right. Not far off, right?
Right. Yep. Yeah, no doubt. Sin the Halfle, thank you for 5 months. Subscribe to us on Twitch. Says, will they ever get salary cap back from the Cam Sutton nonsense? I think the short answer is we will never know. Like, well, yeah. If they will, it probably already happened. Like,
I think we would have seen it.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I would have I think I would have seen it. Like, but it's possible it snuck past. You know what I mean? As well. I keep an eye on the numbers as much as I can, but let's put it this way: million? The money's off the books now.
Right.
Like, the money's like, so the only way we would know it is if
they credit it.
If all of a sudden, money shows up.
Right.
Yes. Right.
And I don't know, with like all the year-to-year adjustments that happen with likely to be earned and not likely to be earned, and what cap carries over there.
It'd be a big jump.
It would be a big jump, because it was somewhere, between 8 and 10 million, I think. I don't remember what his guaranteed salary was, but it was something like that. I think it might have been 10.
Dude, I can look it up if you really want the numbers.
I don't.
I have them. Okay.
I just think it could slide by and no one would notice it. There's never going to be a formal announcement of it. And I could ask around the Lions organization, but I'll be honest, I don't really care at this point. I know people are always very fascinated by that situation, and there's a sense of like, we got screwed, and the league better do it right. But I don't know. Well, The thing that I remember about the situation too, though, is like when something's in arbitration, it only counts what, like 40% against the cap. Wasn't there some rule like that?
But it was just that was the first year. Like it counted 40 against the first year, and then the other 60% hit the next year. Because it was he had because he had an 8 million, something like that, like an 8 million cap hit this year, but the year before it was like 6 or something like that. I'm roughing the numbers. Again, I could look it up, but I'm also not motivated to dig back too much.
We talked a little bit about that, Ross, free agents from Arizona that could come. Both tackles are options. A couple real far down the depth chart tight ends are options. I don't know if you.
There's some good tight ends, man.
Will Hernandez, their guard. They have 3 free agent tight ends.
Who? Arizona?
We're talking about the Cardinals bringing.
They have 2
free agents.
They have 2, right?
They have 2. I don't know. You just said the word 3, so Pharaoh Brown and Josiah DeGara. And Travis. Oh, he's in the RFA. That doesn't count. Starling Thomas, restricted free agent. Want to bring Zonovan Knight back?
I haven't even looked at running backs, to be honest, because I'm not even entertaining the idea that Montgomery's leaving.
Yeah, head in the sand.
I'm just not denying it. Yeah, exactly. Like it's not going to happen. I'm looking at RB3s in the draft as opposed to like RB2s.
Yeah. Couldn't they cut their center? What is this, Froholt or whatever? I don't know what his cap situation is like. I don't even know how to say his name. Is it Hijalte? Froholt? He's entering the final year of a 3-year deal. He does not cost them that much, but they could save $5.6 million if they cut him. But he's only costing them 6. He's only cost less than 7. No. Has he been playing well? You could trade for him if you really wanted to.
I still think that's something we need to like eventually look at here.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a hard thing to predict. It's a hard thing to predict who's going to be on the market.
I have never in 10 years outside of Zadarius Smith, I have never predicted a trade.
Right. I mean, I still remember being like, what do you mean they're going to trade TJ Hawkinson? No shot that happens. Why would they do that? He's a good young player. Lo and behold.
Sam Laporta.
Froholt. Pretty good grades on PFF. I mean, yeah, I'd love to trade for him, but what would that cost?
Middle of the road.
What would that cost to trade for how old is he? Why don't I see his age?
He is 30. Got to be 30.
30-year-old guy in the final year of his contract.
In training camp. He'll be 30.
Yeah, I don't know why they would cut him, but you could trade for him. Someone wanted to know about Lions cap casualty candidates. I think Graham is probably on the top of that list. God, I don't know if there's really that many other good.
Montgomery, Brock Wright. Okay, I mean, the biggest ones, the biggest like gains that you could get.
Yeah.
Decker, we just talked about.
Right.
Graham, then Montgomery, then Jack Fox.
Apparently Branch too. But that's not going to happen.
Well, but I'm talking about the big ones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
Then Jack Fox, Brock Wright, Sam Laporta, Branch, Dorsey, Rakestraw, Lacey. Everybody else is under $1 million.
So
Sorsdal.
I'll give you guys a quick look at Montgomery.
If you want to talk about over $2 million, if saving over $2 million, you only got 5 guys.
Yeah. It's not.
And you're not cutting at least 3 of those guys. Are probably not cut candidates.
So is David Montgomery's contract. Again, a cut works very similar to a trade. So if you want to think of this more as a trade thing, you basically take off his $5.5 million salary, but you still have to pay all the prorated signing bonuses in terms of things that are left. So that's about 4.8 apparently. So you free up 3.5. Take that much dead cap. It's okay. The line certainly wouldn't cut him. $8 million's a lot. 8.4 essentially is a lot. And I think maybe there's a lesser chance that he's around for 10.2 million next year, especially when you can free up 7.7. But I think the Lions are being truthful when they say they want to keep him, and I think they can probably still keep him at that price too. I don't think they need to come at him with a pay cut, especially given that he probably is already upset. I don't think you want to do that. But
no, you're fine.
And then Brock Wright, I'll show real quick. So it's not costing you a ton this year, just a shade under $5 million. Base salary is 3.31, so that's what you'd be getting off the books. But he had an option bonus last year, and you still have to pay 4 prorations of that. You still have to pay 3 prorations of his signing bonus of 3.5 million, so 2.1-ish. So you don't save a ton. Again, you should think of it, can you find a replacement for that guy for this much cap space as you're saving? Can you find an adequate tight end 2 for $2.7 million?
Probably not.
Probably not. So, really, it's Graham. Kind of only Graham.
Womp womp.
Space Kataz, thank you for the 48 months. Says, I love the cap breakdown, but oh my god, please get an ad blocker. Yeah. I gave up on ad blockers like years ago because so many websites don't function properly with an ad blocker. Like they build out their code to make it so that it doesn't work if an ad blocker is on. I haven't checked back in a while. Maybe I should just turn an ad blocker back on. Anyways, I think it's about time to go. This is how long I expected to have you anyways, until 1.
Holy cow.
What?
I was looking at tight ends.
You're
like
excited
PFF grades?
Yeah. It's a great free agent tight end class.
PFF grades for tight ends?
Mm-hmm.
You want to take this is absurd. You'll never guess.
Great.
13th best tight end, according to PFF, is a former Lion. What former Lions tight end might have checked in at 13?
How much are you stretching the imagination of former Lion?
Not far.
So it's not Zach Ertz.
Mm-mm. No.
I have no idea.
You're not gonna get it. James Mitchell.
Whoa,
That's what I said.
With the Panthers? Is he still with the Panthers?
6 games with the Panthers. He had an overall PFF grade of 78.3. That's crazy.
Good for you, James Mitchell.
Right?
Hasn't played a ton, but I'll take that.
Crazy.
All right.
Maybe they can scout tight ends. Maybe that's what that is a sign. That's what I'm taking it. It's a sign that they do a good job scouting their tight ends.
Just not developing them, apparently.
Oh, if you section it out, he's actually even better. He's
section it out to what?
If I had it on the blocking feed. Now I went to receiving. But I'm doing overall offensive grade. Why does it change?
Are you okay?
It shouldn't change. No, it shouldn't change. It's still giving me the same grade, but why is it telling me he's at 10th instead of 13th now? I'm overlooking something.
Is it? It might be affected if one is regular season and one is regular season and playoffs.
That might be it.
Yeah, I've made that mistake before.
Yep. That must be it.
Because for some reason PFF defaults to both included.
They do. Boy, Sam Laporte is still 6.
He was 5th.
Ahead of Trey McBride.
Yeah. If you look at the free version of PFF.
By 0.3.
Which has snap minimum. Laporte is actually 5th.
Ooh. Get out of here, Will Mallory.
We don't need to pay attention to number 3, though.
Nope.
Kill was
Jackson Hawes. Oh, my gosh. Jackson Hawes. Remember, we loved him. Blocking tight end last. Yes.
Is he a rookie?
Yes.
He was. It was 5th rounder. Dang.
Yes. Yeah. Blocking tight end. He was the best blocking tight end. He was a guy I advocated for. He was on my list of a lot. Stupid Buffalo.
Missed opportunities. All right.
All right.
We are going to have a first bite for Pride of Detroit Direct subscribers later this week. I know I didn't post a column because I was going to take Monday off as a company holiday and then write it maybe Monday night, Tuesday morning. And then I don't know if you guys know this, but there was certain news that dropped on Monday that kind of made those plans go askew. So there will be a Pride of Detroit Direct first bite dropping Friday morning, where we're going to talk to a Cardinals writer about Drew Petzing, if you've heard of him. Be a full podcast for that. You will have to be a Pride Detroit Direct subscriber to get it, so go to pridedetroit.com/subscribe to get that. I think that's all I got for you in terms of video content coming up. We'll do our main POD per usual on Monday night, I believe. I think that's the plan. All right. And I think that's all I got for you guys. So make sure you go to pridedetroit.com for all the written stuff that we've been doing nonstop. That stuff never stops. So plenty of content over there on pridedetroit.com. And sorry, Drew Falcon. Drew Petzing Falcon. Dude, you should just change your name. Just be Drew Petzing. All right. We'll see you guys later.